with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
I need approval and the county board minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the auditor's report was changed to the budget report.
Okay. And I believe we're also gonna switch the county farm family of the year to number 6 and the extension report to number 5.
Yes.
Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Do we have to make a
We
motion?
have to make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for those
Thank you.
changes.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Nope, you didn't.
No?
Nope.
You
Sorry.
just asked us all to vote. Yep.
We got it.
I made a motion, you
Aye.
seconded.
I second it.
All right, got a motion to second. Any more discussion? Not, those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we got that taken care of. All right, extension report. Come on up. Everybody's gonna have to state their name, so we got a microphone.
Sammy, do you wanna come and sit down? Yes, all of you, come on.
Certainly, everyone.
Just so they can have a microphone so that they can hear you when you read it.
There's a, for the, everybody can speak their names.
Yeah, well, it's more about the reporting. Oh. Okay, so yes, if you wanna introduce yourself, say your name and your club and maybe something fun that you've done this year in 4-H.
I'm Katie Orth. I'm from the MC Hoofbeats 4-H Club, and I don't know, I went to some horse camps this summer.
I'm Maisie Catherine. I'm in the MC Hoofbeats 4-H Club and going down to state.
My name is Megan Catherine. I'm in the Morrison County Hoofbeats Club also, and I made it to state in Western Heritage.
I'm Raymond Coquette. I show dairy and poultry, and I brought a dairy heifer to the state fair.
What's your name?
Everett, you gotta tell us your name.
My name is Everett, and I show dairy.
Excellent.
I'm Shelby Krebs, and I'm part of the Snappy Elm Builders 4-H Club, and I showed a dairy winter calf for the first time this summer.
I'm Anna Blonigan. I'm in the Snappy Elm Dalers 4-H Club, and I got a sewing machine this year and took sewing to the fair for my first year.
I'm Ben Blonigan. I'm with the Snappy Elm Dalers 4-H Club, and I was a camp counselor for the 4-H summer camp this year.
Brenda.
Hi, I'm Brenda. I'm Everett's mom, Brenda Rudolph, and 4-H is really important to our family. We weren't in 4-H, Nathan and I, growing up, and that we knew that it was something that we needed to have Everett in, and it's a really good program. And it also, for us as dairy farmers, gives us another voice and another vehicle to tell our dairy story. And Everett in the spring takes his cow 304 to school, and he talks to his classmates about dairy and, you know, what's so great about dairy, and especially in our community that has a high ag community.
Clint Catherine, been a volunteer for 10 years probably. Also a key leader for the Livestock Legends Club.
Jan Wozniak, I'm leader of the Darling Thunderbirds 4-H Club for about 43 years.
I can't top that. Kathy Blonigan, leader of the Snappy Elm Dalers 4-H Club, so thank you for having us.
I'm Sam Phillips. I'm part of the Livestock Legends Club, and this year I won meat goat showmanship at the state fair. So that was cool. Yeah. Okay.
So we have a proclamation that Sammy is going to read for us today.
Okay, before we do this, we probably be in our ensemble, we should do our pledge.
Oh, I'm sorry. Clint would like us to do our 4-H pledge, and actually this was brought up at a meeting that Commissioner Wenzel used to always request us to do the pledge for you. So we'd like to bring that back. So go ahead, Sammy, you want to lead us?
I pledge my head to clear thinking, my heart to real loyalty, my hands to larger service, my health to better living, for my family, my club, my community, my country, and my world.
Very good. Thank you.
Typically typically, that's how a 4-H club starts their meeting. They say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then they roll right into the 4-H pledge. So every once in a while, you'll catch someone as soon as you're done with the 4-H pledge or the Pledge of Allegiance to go up and start. So it takes some calm not to do that. But go ahead, Sammy, you can read our proclamation.
Whereas 4-H youth across the nation are leading efforts to solve problems in their communities and make a difference for their futures. Whereas 4-H is one of the largest youth development organizations in Minnesota and the largest in the nation with 6 million young people. Whereas 4-H in Morrison County claims 4-H program numbers more than 220 members and more than 40 volunteers. Whereas 4-H as a part of the extension of the University of Minnesota is a program where youth learn through opportunities that provide them hands-on experience in 4-H's mission, mandates of science, engineering and technology, healthy living and citizenship. Whereas 4-H has connected youth in their communities with the innovative research and resources from our nation's 106 land-grant universities and colleges for more than 100 years. Now, therefore, Chairman of the Morrison County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim October 2nd through 8th, 2016 as National 4-H Week in Morrison County. I urge the people of this community to take advantage of the opportunities to become more aware of this special program that enhances our young people's interest in their future as part of Morrison County 4-H youth development, and to join us in recognizing the unique partnership between our county and our state university system.
I'll so move on that, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, and, you know, growing up in this community and seeing the way things are going in our world, you know, I really believe, knowing what I do about 4-H, that you are all our future leaders. And I love a program that instills more responsibility and a good work effort and ethic to what you're doing. So thank you so much. It's a great honor to be able to honor you today for all that you do. So thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jazinski.
a number of years ago, I was able to shadow Sammy in her projects at the fair. And I think it was probably at that time that I really became part of the whole organization, because I got to see what these people do. And it's amazing. And then to take a look at that young man that's staring at me right now and saying to myself, how old are you? 7 years old, and an active 4-H participant. I just can't tell you how cool that is, because you are tomorrow. You are my tomorrow. And that is really cool. So I very much appreciate everything that you guys do and that you're here today.
Commissioner
Thank you very
Johnson.
much.
Yes, I would just like to thank you all. Thank you for coming this morning, and thank you all for all you do, and the parents for helping out. Thank you.
Commissioner Wilson.
And I'd like to thank you too. 4-H has been a big part of all of our lives and stuff. And I've seen you out at the fairgrounds for many years, and you've all done a wonderful job. We see your articles in the paper from the state fair and the accomplishments that you've all made. So thank you very much. And thanks, Jan, for all the years of service that you've given to the 4-H course.
And myself, some of you were here the last few years. I was in 4-H back in the 60s. I think it was just started then. But again, the thing is, the volunteers and all the kids or 4-Hers or whatever that are in this, you know, people don't realize how much work it takes to show a horse, a cow. And what did you were sewing. You know, and that's a dying art. You know, I mean, hardly anybody sews anymore. And the things that people or children and volunteers have to do to keep you, you know, into these groups of 4-H. You know, so it is just tremendous. You know, the work that the volunteers do, and what you have to do to get those animals to the state fair. Any grand champions in here? Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, 3 of them.
Several.
Wow. Okay.
That's
Good. Not that the rest of the 2, but that's great accomplishments. So now you got something to defend next year, right? There you go. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, before you leave, you need to hang around here for about 5 or 10 more minutes. We're gonna honor the Morrison County Farm Family of the Year, and then we're gonna have a photo op. Is that okay? All right.
You're
Thank
just
you.
going back to school anyway, so
Right,
another
yeah.
5 minutes is good, right? All right.
So let's farm family. You're Susan. I think there's some Gundersons in the group here somewhere.
Yes,
Oh,
there
look
is.
at this.
Yes, well, we're happy to be here today. Thank you for having us. We wanted to honor the Gunderson brothers, David and Alan, for the Farm Family of the Year this year. So the Extension Committee chooses a farm family each year, and they choose these guys because there's lots of good things about them. They have a dairy farm. They milk about 60 to 70 cows. They do their own herd replacement, which is a really good operation to have, and they do crops. So they're busy. I know that they are not just on the farm. They are active in the community in Uppsala. They are active in their church. I think that you're on the American Dairy Association. You have been on the fair board. You're currently, I can't remember.
Currently retired from the
Yes, fire department, that's what it was, yes. So, yeah, you're active in the community, but then you're also active in talking about dairy, helping people know about the dairy industry. And so I think that you were Breakfast on the Farm hosts 2013. So that was a fun thing to highlight the dairy industry. Have people on their farm, let them tour their farm. And so the Extension Committee was there. We got to see your farm, and wow, it is beautiful, and it's clean, and it's wonderful. It was raining that night. That made it all sparkly, but it was very nice. So I open it up to you.
Dwayne, would you sit there from your district? I'd appreciate if you have anything to say.
Sure. Dave and Alan farm 360 acres, they told me. They're right off 238 out of Uppsala. And they've been there, it was their father's farm, and they've been there for, he didn't say how many years, long time though. So, and they do a good job there. They do a good job there. And yes, what Suzanne mentioned, they had breakfast on the farm. Was that 13?
2013.
13, okay. I was there. And they have a beautiful farm out there. And they do a good job, involved in the community, so congratulations, both of you.
Thank you.
So we'll give you this plaque. Do you have anything to say? Do you wanna? We're just happy.
Mike wants to.
Okay.
I just put up with Mike's bull for a lot of years, so. I've dealt with these guys for many years, and they do run a top-notch operation out there, and they're very, very, very community-oriented. They're involved in the dairy program, and, you know, I know this isn't much, but every year they've brought a manure spreader to the fair so that we could clean out barns, and they've donated that for as many years as I can remember, you know, so. Well, you did though. You did for many years when we didn't have anything. So I do appreciate everything you guys have done, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And if I may too, we were out there for the extension, and you guys have just a wonderful looking farm. So if anybody wants to see what a dairy operation, how well it's fine tuned, you guys look like you do a heck of a job out there.
Thank you.
And you do a fantastic job. I was also there during the extension also. Wish it wouldn't have rained.
I know.
But you know what,
I
it
know.
rained.
It did.
But what a facility. It's great, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
So guys, we need to have you stay around here for a photo op, so let's take a few pictures here, okay? All right.
Want both of them, or who do you want that?
All of that, everything.
How do I get to it? The camera icon?
Yep. Very good.
I'll stand it back. Yeah, you block everybody.
Can I have your stuff?
Sometimes.
Oh, wait, you're gonna be in it.
Yeah, I wonder when they got that.
Probably improve it, maybe, huh?
Need one more guy.
Look at that. Kevin, get your.
Yes, Kevin, there you go.
Sneak everybody in here now. There you go.
Sounds good. Okay, there you go.
I don't know, but I don't think it could look better until we bring all these kids up, guys.
All right, sounds
Competition.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
This one here, I see the tall people in front and the people in back.
Four H'ers.
I don't think you
And the volunteers.
guys don't get to be in the back row either. For a change, I'm taller than someone, I love it.
You need the room.
And we need the volunteers. Look at that, beautiful, fantastic. Come on, young man. I got the proclamation. So we go.
Okay, thank you.
So who do I wanna be? Who do I get to? I'll get to the for her.
I just stand by Jelinski, because he's got less hair than I do. Less hair than I do. You ain't gonna get back up right.
I know. Who wants to hold this with me?
Have a chair.
Everett, you can.
Everett, all right, here we go, young man. Now that I
There
like.
you go.
That's nice.
That's what I'm looking at. All of us smile.
I have a couple cameras here, so don't. Keep smiling. True.
My knee's killing me.
I know. You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, John. Breakfast.
Thank you.
Thank you, young lady. Thanks for coming in.
Good job.
You're welcome. Thanks for you guys.
See you, Clint.
You good, Clint?
Thanks for your support.
Coffee and then we'll have a 10-second coffee break here.
Do you guys have any questions about the board report? I maybe missed talking about that. Come on.
I think you did a good job.
I'll text you that picture. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have some more coffee, so I can use the bathroom.
Oh, trust me. I'm just gonna slowly sip on this and, okay, 20 minutes is out, let's go.
Half an hour at a time.
Commissioner Winters, Dan Martins is also here too.
Yep, I'm gonna
in
get
case-
him up
okay,
here too if he'd
excellent.
like to say anything.
Sounds good.
Dan,
Can't sneak away from that.
you got anything, words of wisdom for us? We'd appreciate it. How's the beans coming?
They're there. So I guess what I would share today is what you already know, that it's been a very wet summer in a lot of areas, at least once we got into July and August. And so that makes for a lot of wet field conditions, and some of our lighter soils, of course, we can get on a little easier, and where we get a little more rural land, we can get on a little bit easier. But in some places, the mud makes harvest challenging, and the crop isn't using much water anymore. And so it takes a while for these fields to dry off. We get that chance. So this week of sunshine after tonight, they say, is very welcome. And the wet weather where it's challenging makes for some extra hazards. And finishing Farm Safety Week last week, then we keep that in mind through the harvest season, just to be really make an extra deliberate effort just to be really safe in getting at the harvest and safe on the roads and some of those kind of things. So there's a good crop out there. And in some places, it's just going to be challenging to get some of that crop off. And then, of course, the economics that also is really tight again this year with low prices, and those bushels will help to make up some of that and pay some of those bills. But the budgets are going to be pretty tight on a lot of farms again this year, I think. And so we're working now to do some planning for our winter meeting season. And so again, as always, if you hear about things that we should pay attention to through the winter months, then let us know about that, and we'll see what we can do to keep some information floating around about some things. The other thing that's really new last week is Department of Ag announced that they found a weed called Palmer amaranth in Yellow Medicine County, and that's a weed that's been raising havoc in the southern part of the U.S. It's a cousin to pigweed and tall water hemp, and spreads really fast and really aggressive. And so we really will be encouraging this winter for farmers to really know what it looks like and know where it is across Minnesota, and then to follow some good practices for trying to stay ahead of that issue so it doesn't get too out of hand in Minnesota. But a real key is really knowing what these weeds actually look like, and knowing what you have, and then being smart about how you use cultural practices and herbicides and things to stay ahead of some of those problems. So I'll stop there unless you have other questions or things you want to kick around.
Anything else, Commissioner Jelinski?
Mr. Chair, I do. Do you have a crystal ball? When's the big frost coming?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think most people would really welcome, out in the farm country, I think most people would welcome a really good frost one of these days, to knock some of the weeds back. And
Yep.
so they dry down a little bit before we start grinding the beans through the combines. And I think most of the corn and soybeans are ready for that. And so I think we are at a place pretty much where most people would be okay with that whenever it lands. But I don't have a crystal ball.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, and Dan, just a question for you, and you're probably much more up on this than I am, but some people have asked me about this when I'm out and about, and regarding the governor's new order on
Okay.
neonicotinoids
Yep.
and outlawing them basically, or what, can you enlighten me or us on what that's, I know it's because of the bees, I understand that, but
Yeah. My perception is that the announcement is not an effort to, at this point at least, not an effort to outlaw the product, but to make sure that we're using it strategically and judiciously. And some people would say that's a little bit overkill because there already is a label for the product. And the label is what's been approved as EPA and other agencies have reviewed the product and allowed the product to be put into use. And so if we follow the label, we ought to be in pretty good shape with the use of that product, and creating a lot of other rules and regulations and hoops to jump through around it is maybe not terribly necessary. I'm not in a position to be the judge of all that, but that's a little bit of what goes on with it. I think one of the concerns has to do with the neonicotinoid. One of the things to keep in mind is that it's a family of insecticide products where the chemistry really is a synthetic version of something that occurs naturally in the soil. Neonicotinoids, if you think about that, sounds a lot like nicotine. Nicotine has an insecticide effect. It's the kind of compounds in plants that have a natural insecticide benefit to plants. You can think about that if you're smoking the stuff, I guess. And so it was really thought to be a really good deal when we came up with this family of chemistry to use control insects, both in terms of weed treatments and in some other areas, because it was thought to be much safer than some of the other harsher chemicals or compounds that we were using for insecticides prior to that. And so it's really good to keep in mind that there were some positive reasons why this product came into the marketplace in the first place and why it was developed. And so if we ban the use of that, then will we be going back to some of those more harsh products for accomplishing those same purposes? And so I think there's a lot of thought that needs to be given to how this plays out. It's really easy to make a lot of political hay out of the discussion and kind of blow right past a lot of the maybe the logic for why we're using it and how we're using it. And at the same time, it's very important for us as we use it to be very thoughtful and strategic about how we use it. One of the concerns that we think about is that some people are using, it's probably been used for corn for a longer period of time. In more recent years, it's been applied as a seed treatment for soybeans also. Some people talk about it being there and being beneficial for controlling soybean aphids. And the reality is that it dissipates in the soil long before soybean aphids in most cases become a serious problem. And so if we're using it routinely for that purpose on soybeans, then that's probably something that really shouldn't be doing unless we're really planting soybeans very late. If we're caught with a wet spring, we're planting soybeans the 1st of July, then maybe that we're getting close to the time when the soybean aphid population is really starting to become a problem. In that 2 or 3 weeks that a neonicotinoid as a seed treatment for soybeans might actually be helpful in that case. But for most of our soybeans that are planted on more normal planting dates, it's really not useful for controlling soybean aphids, and we shouldn't be using it that way. There may be some other purposes for which it's useful, and that's just being strategic about where we're using it and not just use it every place we can just for whatever.
So his executive order, it didn't outlaw it then? It more much critiqued how it should be used in what instances?
The way I understand it is that it's meant to it's not an order. From what I understand, it's not an order specifically with specific details about how and when you use it, but it's an order to review how and when it would be used. I think he has instructed Department of Ag staff to review the labeled use of it and the practices that are followed around it, and to come up with, see whether there's a need to come up with more stringent regulations about how it gets used in Minnesota.
Oh, okay, I just didn't know, I just
Yeah.
heard, because I
Yeah.
applied for that 15-person citizens committee
Yep.
regarding the
Yep.
pollinators, and okay, just interesting stuff, okay.
And then there's a lot of discussion about, for all the things that are causing problems for bees in the world, then how big of a problem is this? On a scale of 100, is this a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or a 5, or is this an 80 or 90 where you get a lot of bang for your buck? And so to make life complicated for taking care of our crops for a very little, it's risk and benefit. If you're gonna make farmers jump through a lot of extra hoops that make their life more complicated, make producing the crop more complicated, and increase the risk of growing the crop more complicated, and for very little benefit, then you gotta wonder whether that makes a lot of sense. If it really is something where you get a really big bang for your buck in terms of protecting pollinators, then maybe that's more significant. And there's a lot of questions about whether this is really a big piece of the puzzle or a little piece of the puzzle, and how much time and effort and complication you really want to create around that. But I think it's always being thoughtful and strategic, following the label rules about how you use these products. There's been a lot of work done to develop products as they apply materials to seed treatments, that they would be materials that keep the product stuck to the seed and not floating off in dust. So there's been a lot of other efforts made also to try to make some of these processes work better, so that banning a product that's useful is not so necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? Dan, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan, have a good day.
You too.
All right, next on the agenda, gentlemen, is the Sullivan Lake lid. Please state your name for the record.
Good morning, I'm John Korsman.
Morning, John.
Morning, John.
The Sullivan Lake Lid. And I believe you have, it was good to see all the 4-H'ers here. I'm glad you take the time to recognize them. That, a great activity. I believe you have the budget, sent that in, and the bottom line is, this year we are requesting an assessment of $40 for each riparian owner, which is $10 less than last year, because the Lake Association came through with a little additional funds, so we were able to reduce that assessment recommendation.
Good.
So,
Mr. Chair, question, now, your funding from the state, DNR, okay? You received grants for a number of years?
yes,
And what year and what was the max in that year, do you remember?
last year we got less.
Right, right.
Offhand, I can look it up for you, but I'm
No,
gonna
no,
say.
that's fine. They cut it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did not get impacted, I think, as much as some others associations, but it was 1,000 or 2,000 less.
Okay, and what I've been encouraging the LIDS to do, and the Lake North Association, is to speak with your legislators about that, because Paul Gazelka made it very clear that that was not the money that comes to the county was not to supplant what's coming to your association. So just be aware of that. In an election year, you might wanna bring that up, they're very aware of that, and it has, they cut it from 650,000 statewide to 200,000 this year. So, I mean, the DNR has taken away some stuff, because now money's coming to the county, so just talk to your legislators.
Yes, you're correct. Last year, we were made aware of that it was gonna be cut somewhat. And we were glad to get the grant from Morrison County, which helped supplement what we had. And we will do that, that's for sure, because, we're actively trying to contain this curly leaf, and we're highly dependent on that DNR grant to supplement our ability to add from the Lake Association.
By looking at it, it looks like you want a $10 reduction for all the lid.
Yes,
Easy to
correct.
say.
It's a $10 reduction from last year.
That's which is a good thing. I need a
Yes.
motion, gentlemen.
I'll
Got a
second
motion
that.
and a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Till next
Thank
year.
you.
Yeah, so I guess one question I have is, do you believe there will be funding next year again from?
From the county?
Yes.
I
Don't know
We
yet?
have not received any word that
Yeah.
would lead us to believe we won't get the same funding.
Okay.
But we haven't received the funding,
Right.
so,
Yeah. So we just need to stay tuned to it,
It's a
so we
year by
know
year
to submit.
thing, right.
Yes,
Yep.
right, and, yeah, agree, it is year by year as we.
You
as
never
we
know
do-
what'll happen next
Do work
year.
through this, so, and this year we, put a lot into now surveying the lake so that we can see how we're doing. And I know the DNR was out this year looking at Lake Shore, doing an evaluation too. So if we can gather that information along with what we find for vegetation and see how we're doing. But it appears, based on a survey we did, that the chemical is doing well with the curly leaf. It kills it for that period of time, but it doesn't go away. It's something we're just trying to contain, and hopefully we can find something that helps us out in the long run.
Exactly.
So,
All right, John, thanks for the information.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
do appreciate it.
Thanks for all you do for the lake.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yep.
Mike.
Crook Neck Lake Improvement District.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Come on.
State your name and everything, please, for the record.
All right, let me get some of these.
right.
I'll send them
Thanks,
off,
Deb.
yep. Do you have one?
Yep, I have one, thank you. Adolph Raby, I'm the secretary of Crook Neck Lake Improvement District. And if time permits, I'd like to just cover a grant that you gave to the 4 lakes up there too. We're the fiduciary agent, so. The first picture is of Crook Neck Lake. That's just an independent survey that we had RMB do of our lake. And the second one is just a picture of the treatment that we have PLM do, and you'll notice that the two match. One of the things we are noticing is that we too are just chasing the curly leaf pondweed around. I mean, it just seems like it's 12 acres, 12 acres, 12 acres every year, and we're chasing it around. I talked to the DNR in St. Cloud, and we're treating at a rate of 1.5 parts per million of the aquathol K or whatever they're using. And the young lady that kind of okays the permits said you could go to 5. The DNR allows you to go to 5. So this winter, we're gonna start, but it becomes very expensive. I mean, you can imagine that the chemical cost is a big cost. So we're gonna start scrounging around in the state and anywhere else that has curly leaf pondweed and see if anyone has tried that to see what the results are. Because if, we spend, on our little lake, we spend $15,000 a year treating that thing. If we could double that one year and have some result, I think we would give that a try, so we'll check. The third page is simply the way that they treated it as part of the report. So that's 2016 activity. For 2017, we scheduled a meeting. One of the requirements is to send a letter with a ballot on it. The second is to get the board of directors of the LID to decide and approve what we're going to ask.
If I could interrupt, we got one page here that I don't understand.
That's the technical people would understand that. It's really for the soil and water and the other people that we have to send the report to. And it talks about the amount of aquathol K. It's this one?
Yep, and it's English.
Yeah, it's the amount of aquathol K they put on it.
This looks like somebody just took
Foreign
a
language.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have, this packet goes to not only the board, but it ends up going to the soil and water, and the local DNR, and everybody.
This is really in English?
Huh?
This is really in English?
Well, I haven't tried to look at it, I think.
There's not a word in here.
I don't see any words unless it's written in,
Oh,
Super secret.
is this Latin or something?
no, I don't know what,
That's what I'm saying, it looks like There's somebody just made an error on the typewriter or keyboard.
No, I think it was something written wrong.
Okay, all right.
That first BQQ, RJD, UPS, I can understand UPS, but that's about it.
So I'm sitting there going, English, I'm going, where did
All
I go to
right,
school?
Well, I don't even think that's UPS, I think that's up with an S.
Yeah, all
But
right.
anyway, that's a misprint someplace. in
All right,
there.
yeah,
Okay.
somebody
All right.
got
Phew.
sent to us.
All right.
Maybe
Continue.
that's DNR language.
Yeah, this goes to the DNR.
Okay, let them,
So they
let them
understand it.
decipher it, sure.
All right.
Okay.
And we did send out our letter in the ballot. And then the board decides what we should present to the constituency as far as how much we want to levy that year, the next year. And this is minutes of the board meeting, and I'm the secretary, and I'm a little bit terse on the minutes. And then here's the backup for how we arrived at the amount that we want. And the backup information just tells you that over the last 5 years, we've been trying to reduce our contingency fund from about 55,000 down to 30, which takes care of anything we think or anything our treatment people tell us could happen on that lake. So we just wanted to bring that down. So for the last 5 years, we've been reducing the amount that we have billed our people. And this year, it's back up to normal, which is when we get done treating, we're at $30,000 level right now, and we get done treating next year, we want to be at a $30,000 level again. So that's what we're trying to do, is take care of the lake, but plan well enough that we're maintaining about a $30,000 contingency fund. So that's what we've done. If you go a few pages more, you'll see the annual meeting minutes, and the Lake Improvement District in general approved going for $11,645 this year, or for 2017, or approximately $85 per person on the lake. So then we go to the next page. It simply gives you all the financial detail, and we need that for for you here. So we're asking for $11,645, and the second to the last page is simply our work plan for next year.
I have a question. Deb, maybe you could, this $85.
What page are you on?
Crookneck Improvement Annual Meeting.
Yep.
$85, is that per parcel of land, or is it per?
What is it?
It's per property
owner.
owner. It's the
So
same
it's-
as all of the lake improvement districts, aside from the change that was just made to the Chaminade, thank you,
Yeah.
are all the same. So what was changed
With
was
Chaminade
originally.
was done by per property, no, per
parcel.
Per parcel.
And this here's per property owner.
Right.
Okay, okay.
All right. Yep, and then on the next page, you'll see our actual for 2016, our budget for 2017, and the last column, the gray column on the very far right of this chart, is funding that we got from the county, $25,600 for to prevent try to prevent migration of AIS, and I'd like to talk about that in a moment. But Crookneck Lake is the fiduciary agent for it, and so we keep track of that on the same sheet. Our work plan, the next page, and the last page is the officers, which we have a requirement to provide to you every year. So what we're doing is we'd like to have approve an assessment of $85 per parcel, or $11,645.
Gentlemen, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
A second, I got a motion and a second to approve the 2017 lid for Crookneck. Any more discussion? I have a discussion on the aquatic, the AIS grant. Basically, that was given to us. It's not county levy money. This was a grant that was given to the county to distribute to the other lakes, just to want to clarify.
To address AIS
Right,
and
right.
doing that in a variety of ways through education and then through an opportunity that the board identified in the work plan for those dollars to possibly
Right.
grant to lake improvement districts.
So if I'm.
Well,
oh,
I
you're
think we're
vote
gonna
on
address
first?
that, yep, and then Adolph has a report on that,
Yes,
so.
Mr. Chair.
All right,
I have a question,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair.
Zelinski.
Adolph, I'm looking at the annual meeting minutes, I think. And I'm just curious as to, you had a group of individuals at this meeting. Did you have a fairly good discussion on this $85? And I don't mean to be, I'm not
Right.
trying to pick apart your minutes, that's not my intent
Right.
at all.
No, I
I'm
would-
just curious, was there a group of individuals that said there is no way we should be paying $85? Was there a group of individuals saying, we need to pay $85? Or you kind of get where I'm coming?
Right. No, I think generally, the Lake Improvement District has been very, very positive about this way of funding. There are some, you know. and
Always
there-
is,
And
yeah.
we really got into trouble 4 years ago when we were sitting at $55,000-$60,000, and, I mean, so that's why, that's what the discussion was about, was why do you have so much cash out here?
Okay, that perhaps answered it, thank you.
All right.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
If I may take a
Yep, go
minute.
right ahead.
There's a picture behind each one.
All right.
We, as part of a survey, and I want to, thank the board and the DNR to do that, and particularly the person that we met and talked to and had contact with was Mr. Mauer, and we want to thank him for pushing the effort through. So I'd like to say thank you, Kevin. The grant was for surveying each one of the individual lakes, 4 lakes up in our region, and seeing if we couldn't get a picture of where the aquatic invasive species was, or are. And then the next step was to produce a brochure that we would distribute at each one of the locations where you can enter the lake, each one of the landings, and a brochure that would go to the local businesses around as widely as we could distribute them. So we took surveys, and the surveys, you can see on the very first page, and it really gives you a picture. The first time we've seen it, it gives you a picture of where the aquatic invasive species are. And the red dots are Eurasian milfoil, and the yellow dots are curly-leaf pondweed. And you'll notice that Chaminade has no curly-leaf pondweed. And Chaminade, of course, would like to keep it that way. And so the whole program that we're looking for, and the program had a 5-year goal to it and says if we could prevent that from moving to Chaminade for 5 years, we've kind of maybe helped succeed. Fish trap, we don't have it on this map that you have in front of you, but fish trap has zebra mussels. And the rest of the 3 lakes would prefer that we don't have any of those for a while. So we want to see if we can't prevent the migration of any aquatic invasive species from one lake to another. You'll notice that the little lake Crookneck, just south of Chaminade, is got no Eurasian milfoil, and we'd like, so that was the whole idea. So the project consisted of spending money on surveys of the lakes, and we used RMD out of Detroit Lakes to do that, and all 4 of them were taken by RMD. Those surveys were used not only for this, but they were used for treatment of the lakes too. And I'll tell you, since we did that this year, the DNR is a lot happier with us, because we have a survey that is totally separate from the treatment people. And that's something they've been trying to get us to do for quite some time. And once we did that, the DNR becomes much more cooperative, and they're just a little happier with us, I guess. The second page of this is an accounting of the money so far. And we have a couple things to do. The spring survey, and by the way, we took 2 surveys this year. because they wanted the curly leaf pondweed very, very early, and they need the Eurasian milfoil in the late July, so we took it, so we captured all of it. And then we built, they take the surveys, we make maps, we make great big maps of each individual lake that are 3 feet by 4 feet, and those maps go up on signposts, and I think we have the signpost in the next sheet.
Yep.
And that's what the signpost looks like, especially designed by Mr. Steve Zoller, one of our local contractors up there, so. So all in all, the DNR's been very cooperative. By the way, I didn't bring wish I would have the brochures, but the DNR went over the brochure that we had made the first time, and they liked it well enough that they ended up passing it through their messaging people. The DNR thought we were way too messy, we had too much junk on it, so they passed it through their messaging people, and they've come back with a lot of suggestions on what the next brochure should look like.
All right.
Very good.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair, and Adolph, before you take off, so you're funding from the DNR, okay? At one point, what was the max, do you know?
I think we had up to $6,000 or $7,000
What are you
when we
getting
first
now?
started out. No, we haven't gotten any in 5 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So you're getting nothing from the DNR, period?
Well, not for our treatment or our surveys, not in the last 5 years. No, except this, and we got, you guys,
That's, yeah,
Right,
that's
that's
different.
Through the
That's,
county.
that's
Through
different.
the county.
That's
Okay,
different.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
All right, gentlemen.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks for all
much.
you do,
Yep.
Adolph.
thank you,
Appreciate it.
thank you. Bet.
Live better, live longer.
Have a good day.
You know, if you're already in, it's a live presentation, so if you just log into Prezi, otherwise it's real easy for me to just do the video on my phone. So it should be
It's technology.
I know.
Ladies.
And every time we come, it's like, yeah.
Is this gonna work?
But we have a plan B today, so.
Love it.
Kate Bjorgi, Director of Live Better, Live Longer.
And my name is Mary Kenna. I'm the program coordinator for Live Better, Live Longer.
Good morning, and thank you. We always welcome an opportunity to come and visit with you and share the good things that are happening with Live Better, Live Longer in our community, so thank you. Briefly, in the short time that we have, I just would like to provide an update, first of all, on Rock and Run. And so I know that we just visited with you in July and gave you, all the good word about the Rock and Run this past year, but looking ahead to the 2017 event, we are planning to really continue with the same venue because we know that it works well. But we are delighted to report that CHI St. Gabriel's Health this year is willing to cover the registration fee entirely for any child, kindergarten through 5th grade in Morrison County schools to participate in the Rock and Run. I know it gets me goosebumps. Actually, I think it's really a huge commitment on the part of our organization.
How many did you have last year, or this year, I should say, for the Rock and Run?
How many?
How many kindergarten through 5th graders did you have?
You know, our numbers were down by about 100 this past year. And so, the difference was that 2 years prior to that, Commissioner, we had SHIP funding that covered the cost of any child. And that was in the Little Falls schools.
And that's the point, your numbers
Yeah.
were down. and
They really were, and we, even though we made this assumption that $10 isn't a lot to charge, I think it still speaks to where our community's at. And, we're about trying to keep kids healthy and help kids to get healthy. And we know that this is an event that people are supportive of, and if we can just do that easy, make the healthy choice the easy choice for them, why wouldn't we do that? And so our, president of the hospital, Lee Boyles, and I sat down and he was extremely supportive. He just said,
Great
I said, are there limits to this? What if we get, and he said, no, that would be a great problem if we just get the huge number of kids that want to participate. So we're really excited. And then one other new component to that is that we're offering an obstacle course, which we know is just a blast for kids and families. So
A family-friendly obstacle course.
yes, so
mom and
any
dads
of
get to
you-
participate
Yeah,
too?
absolutely.
It'll be a family team going through that, yeah.
Mr. Chair and Kate, do you have the date yet set for the Rock and
Yes,
Run?
Saturday, May 20th. Yep. And that's out at the Belle Prairie Athletic Complex, just north of Little Falls. And we know that people really like the route there, so we're excited about that. And then one update with Falls Festival on Foot, that event, as you know, a year ago, we partnered with the Zoo Fest to test out that event on the west side, and that was fun. And then also last June, we partnered with the Dam Festival folks. And so this year, we are in conversation with local law enforcement in the Little Falls city to offer the event in conjunction with the National Night Out in August. So look for that event happening. We're confident that that's going to be a good fit. So, and then that's kind of touching on focus areas of our MOVE team, and then our Belong team. Without taking too much of your time, because we're excited to share about the EAT team. The Belong team this time of year amps up for our kindness campaign, and so what that team is working on is really gathering feedback from the community about attributes which really identify our community. And this came out of some of the Belong team members who worked with the school district of Little Falls and saw that the 4 attributes of flyer pride, which are respect. I should ask the young lady over here because she's a flyer, I think, right?
Yep.
Respect, responsibility, positive attitude, and safety, right? Have just really done a great job of infusing those attributes into every part of the school day. And so our Belong team looked at that and said, how can we do that here in Morrison County when reports such as, we're the top 10 laziest cities in the county, things like that have been out there on the internet. And so, what can we do collectively to identify the positive attributes of Morrison County and really make that a big deal for families in Morrison County to bring the positive and the kindness and whatever those attributes are. And so I'm not going to go into that any further, but I do have the survey that we're using, and so I will leave that here. And I just really challenge and invite and encourage you to complete that survey. It's very short, and then there's instructions for how you can get that information back to us. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah. And then we're so excited about what's happening with our Eat Smart program, and I'm going to turn it over to Mary to share that.
Yes, as the program coordinator, that's my primary responsibility. Eat Smart is funded primarily from CHI St. Gabriel's Health, the mission and ministries from the National Corporation. So you may recall the goal of that really was to increase the access to healthy food for individuals in Morrison County. And so we worked with our providers in our system along with school nurses throughout the county to refer families and individuals to that program. And as part of that program, those participants need to, first of all, have that referral. We started with a focus of addressing those with food insecurity issues and financial issues. Quickly came to find out that it really is impacting many other areas in their lives. And so we have 50 participants, actually 48 participants, and of those, 25 pick up 1 week from Sprout. Sprout is one of our key partners. They work with all the growers in the area and get that produce to us every week. And we have our last pickup actually tomorrow for our summer program. So 25 pick up 1 week, 25 pick up the next week. Another requirement for them is to participate in education. And the way that has happened, we have worked a lot with, we could not have done it without the extension and their SNAP educators providing a lot of our food demonstrations. So every time those individuals come and pick up, there's a demonstration utilizing some of the produce that they may not know what that is or how to use that. Whether it's kale or beets or different types of lettuce, that kind of thing. So that's been really effective. And we have had 5 different types of classes for those participants to be involved in based on their own schedule. Some of those have happened at Sprout in that kitchen, and some have been off-site. So we've had a Cooking Matters in the store tour, that's at Coburn's. They do, it's a one-time thing where they walk through, learn how to shop a little healthier, and purchase food for a healthy meal. We've had some one-time classes at Sprout. We had a Back to the Kitchen, which was a 6-week class, and I think that's one that we really have been excited about. That impacted, we had 8 participants and their families in that program. Or in that class. And so it was basically moms and kids came and cooked at Sprout, again, using items that they're getting from their CSA. And really, the impact of that, we've heard all kinds of positive feedback. We're just compiling all that data, and I'll get that to you with specifics, testimonials. Kate has a couple testimonials that she wants to show in just a minute. The other thing I just wanted to reiterate with the Eat Smart program, it really does support our community needs health assessment that the county is working with the hospital in terms of mental health issues. We found that of those 48, part of the requirement again for them to participate in that program was to complete a pre-survey. And as a result of that, about 60% of those were dealing with obesity and overweight issues. 63% were struggling with finances for food, but almost 70%, it was like 69.5%, were dealing with mental health issues. Whether it was anxiety, depression, that's been diagnosed by a provider. That's huge. And so looking at what we eat and how it affects our mental health, there is obviously a connection there. But again, this program started out not really focusing on mental health, but very quickly we discovered that we're going to continue to support that. And that will be a focus of our work with Live Better, Live Longer in the hospital, because it is critical in our county. The mental health issues was that identified as the top issue, I believe. So that's exciting that we're not just giving people food and it's a Band-Aid approach, but when we talk about resources, and of these 48 families, 25 will go on to a winter CSA program. So that will start in November through March. It's once a month pickup. And that will include education, whether it's parenting, family support. We'll be doing some activities with kids. The whole family will come, they'll have a meal, we'll do an activity, and they'll pick up their CSA. So that's our vision for that program. Again, very exciting to help them have access to resources. Then the last component, if you recall, is all about gardening and getting them involved. I know we have conversations in peers. I know I made a call into Swanville to talk about what resources are there so those families can participate in their very local communities. We have a lot happening in Little Falls, of course, that is open to anybody. But that way, because next summer they're not going to get that CSA. It'll be a new group coming through. So we don't want to just end that connection with them, but we want to support them in that. So do you have anything else you wanted to add, Kate?
No, it's not working.
It's not, and that's okay. I have her right here, and I think that we tested this out, and you'll be able to meet Abigail this way. And all I'll say is I had the privilege of meeting this young woman on her very first day of CSA pickup, and she was extremely, extremely shy, very uncomfortable. She was there with her PCA, who was there to assist her, and just to see her over the course of these few weeks blossoming into just a level of confidence that has surprised us. She's one testimony that we'll share with you. The other one, I don't believe that we have time for, but Karen, I sat and visited with her, and she talked about how within a couple weeks, she was so surprised that the healthy foods she was eating so quickly affected her health. She was coming in there with blood glucose levels spiking all over the place, and how quickly, within 2 weeks of eating differently, her health, those glucose levels leveled off, and just the impact that was having on her. And so that was exciting. But we want to share Abigail's story with you. So we just sat down, and for about 20 seconds, she just gave us a snapshot of what this program has meant to her. So here she is.
I'm Abigail Rush, and I found this program to be very inspiring about fruits and vegetables. Fruits, yeah, from the cooking classes. But I learned a lot, and I met some new people. people, and it was very fun getting out of my house and doing things.
So she took the 6-week class, and as Kate said, when she walked in, she was even leery. If you've been in Sprout, I think you all have been, it's a big garage, and she didn't really know what to expect, and I obviously is challenged a little bit, but she was very cautious. But by the time she got through that 6-week course, oh my goodness, she was chopping vegetables and doing all kinds of things in the kitchen. So, and we know that many of the families have been impacted in many other ways. And again, we'll share more of that with you as we start to compile that data. Questions?
Gentlemen, anything else?
Mr. Chair, just a comment, if I may. I am so impressed with Sprout,
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the Crestliner complex,
Yep.
let's call it
Yep.
what it is, the big garage.
Well, that's what she saw
It's what
when
it
she
is.
walked in.
It's
so.
what it is. But the kitchen, the stuff that is done there today, you know, it came from a garage to what it is
Right.
today. I believe the next event there is October 20th, I think, the next Sprout event.
The
if you
market.
will.
The
Market
grower
event.
and makers market, yep.
And I just see this as being something that can grow to be huge. I'm looking at baby steps here, and I'm confident that's exactly what you're
Yep,
looking at.
exactly.
And the baby steps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but I am so impressed with how Sprout is taken off. And obviously now to hear what you're doing with Sprout besides everything that I see,
Yeah.
it's
It's
just
amazing.
amazing, yes. Thank you very,
Yeah.
very kindly.
Mr. Chair, and I don't know if any of you have watched Discover Wisconsin, and some of those cities in central Wisconsin, and the amount of food to table, I mean, the canned goods, and they have businesses all over in these communities that are very organically minded, but it's amazing the amount that it brings to that economy from people coming from outside. It's just unbelievable.
It
Right.
is.
There's huge opportunity. And I think you know that some of the grant funding we secured for this project actually went to purchase equipment to get into that demonstration kitchen, which is such a great resource for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna get that to work at some point.
Let's get Dan out of here. Dan just walked in from MRCC.
Dan, come on up.
Morning.
Morning, Dan.
Morning.
Can you state your full name for the record, please?
My name is Dan Larson, and I'm the administrator for the Minnesota Rural Counties Caucus.
All right.
Pleasure to be here today. I've got gifts. Can I hand these out? I'm gonna keep one. If I need more than that, Deb, I've got one more. Appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you this morning about the Minnesota Rural Counties Caucus. 28 rural county members. Morrison County is one of our valued members. Every year, we, as a membership organization, need to justify what we're asking of you in terms of revenues and time commitments. And so this gives me a chance, we don't get this chance very often, to come and talk about the Minnesota Rural Counties Caucus. A little bit of a low-key organization, but we do good things. And there's a place for you in the Minnesota Rural Counties Caucus today and into the future. So if I can, I'll go briefly through what I've got in the packet. And this starts with a letter from our chairman, and it's Jim Stratton of Douglas County. But I'll be brief with this, but he wanted to express his thanks for asking us to come here, and he's got, of course, a conflict, or he'd be here himself. Also to recognize and bearing with us through the last 18 months, the MRCC is approaching its 20th year of existence. April of 1997 was when the group formed up. So as we approached that 20-year mark, we just used it as an anniversary to kind of a benchmark to review who we were as an organization, get back down into a lot of the details of how we were formed, does it still make sense, a lot of administrative stuff that frankly isn't a lot of fun. But we did it. We're almost all the way through it now. The last part of it is a complete review of our policy line by line, we went through it, had work teams for every one of our sections, and came up with recommendations. Those are in your hands right now. And we made the decision, instead of going line by line, we didn't do this every year, but we're going to now. Part of this process has been getting a little bit closer to AMC, recognizing that we are a resource-challenged organization. You have one part-time staffer, that's me. And you know as well as I do, your issues are oceans wide. So you could have 20 of me and still not cover the things you need to cover. So we have to be very focused in what it is we do. So that the 18 months we're coming out of it, there's just a couple of things that we have left. The administrative, the policy side of it, and that's going to get us on a timeline that every year now, we had an agreement with AMC that we could challenge their policy if we didn't like it, if there was something about it we didn't like. In this review process and in discussing this with AMC, they didn't like that piece anymore. That's a part of what we went back and forth with, and it came to the agreement that we've never used it in 10 years. We probably won't use it going forward if we can get on this pathway to discussing our issues ahead of AMC policy over the summer. And so that's what this policy review is setting us up to do, and get on the AMC timetable. Also, we're relying on them more for administrative things, and that's worked out very well. So the last piece, and you might see this, is we're talking about even rebranding the MRCC, Minnesota Rural Counties Caucus. I've answered this for 20 years. What's a caucus? Rural counties as opposed to greater Minnesota counties. So I just suggested this to the group last time, did a quick logo, call ourselves Greater Minnesota Counties, and asked them if at the next meeting I shouldn't come with other options, and they liked the idea. So we're going to be talking about that. We may be talking about what they call me. I'm the administrator, maybe an executive director. Czar is a little too much, but so we're kicking around those kind of ideas, just so you get an idea of where we are as an organization. We have now established that. Administratively, we're on sound footing. That means that we haven't put a lot of time into looking forward in this last year and a half, and that's where we are right now. So in a sense, the funner stuff, the things that we can put our minds to. We are on a membership campaign. We're going to kick it off in the next week or 10 days. And my group, just in getting back to the letter, has asked me to look into the things that we've already done for our member counties and non-member counties, and it's a pretty good list. So Jim points out that his own county did very well in receiving regional designation of the Greater Minnesota Park and Trail. They got 2 grants in the first round. They're building 2 brand new parks and trails. Parks in the Greater Minnesota system. And also he mentions the Vulnerable Children and Adults Act formula, which is a little esoteric, but your human service people will know it and understand it. And we froze a bad formula in the first year and saved counties across the state multi-millions of dollars, and including Morrison County did very well in that as well. So so just in terms of legislatively, I brought the priority sheet for 2016. Transportation funding is always at the top of our list. We've got a new program called the Greater Minnesota Brain Gain Pilot Project. My board supported it, but to be honest, I don't think they knew it and understood it. It's a little complicated, but it has to do with recognizing these great little energetic economic development initiatives that are web-based, that take a regional approach to marketing the assets of a region. You have great natural, cultural, educational, economic assets in this region. Region 5, Cheryl Hill, I believe, is somebody, I've worked real closely with her over the last year, very supportive of this program. But we got it out late last year, the language of it, and so we didn't get the RDCs fully understood. We introduced the bill, but again, nobody understood it. We're taking this time over the summer to get back in touch with the RDCs, having them fully understand it. I went to them on August 9th in St. Cloud, and they liked the idea. They just wanted to hear me talk about it, and they put a subcommittee of 3 members for me to work on the language of the bill with them. So we're doing that kind of work, and that's a statewide, again, approach.
Was there funding that went along with that, Dan?
We asked for $1 million for a 1-year pilot program. I think you can see this year we're gonna come back and maybe about 10 times that, and we're gonna expand that number out quite a bit.
Was there some grant funding that already went out for that type of marketing cause?
No, not that anyone I talked to in my group said. That's the first question I asked, or what are we duplicating? And they said, well, on a statewide level, we're not. So this would ultimately coordinate. No other state in the 5-state region or Nebraska does not have a statewide platform that if I were in the cities or a different state and I had a notion to Google jobs in greater Minnesota, every other state in the 5-state and Nebraska has something that would catch that and direct you to a web-based platform that says, welcome, you're in the right place, you're not alone, show me pictures, where do you want to go? And we'll break ours out by the region. That's not in this project, but it's in the back of our minds that ultimately that's where we want to go.
We asked for $1 million. How much did we get?
0.
Okay, that's my.
Yep, nobody understood it.
Okay.
But we got the bill out there, we got it talked about to the extent that we needed to. We got an attaboy from one of the chairs, which, he said, come on back next year, but let us understand it better. So that's
And
what
asked
we're
for
working
10
on.
million.
Well, he didn't say that, but that's
Well-
what we're going back to the group with and the RDCs. The way the money would work, general fund, deed would be the fiscal agent, and then equally distributed among the RDCs and and where there is no RDC, a regional, what's West Central Initiative, Southeast Minnesota, they call them initiative foundations. Well, you got one here.
Yep.
There you go. Okay. So where there is no RDC, say in your area, that money would go in equal portion to the initiative foundation. Now, the question that was raised at the RDC, we've got that then going to any group of 2 towns, or not any one city or town could apply for a grant. It would defeat the regional purpose. A county could, within that, could apply for a grant. The RDCs raised a question, we'd kind of like it to stop at us. And so we're going to have to work through that within our own group. We do not want to bring that kind of an issue to the legislature. We're going to work that out among our own group, and that's why this discussion time is important. Broadband funding. So last year, we got $10 million. The previous year, $35 million. We wanted $100 million. The place MRCC was able to make a difference there is we got 2 groups talking. We did a letter, I don't know if you saw it, but we had 16 or 17 organizations on a broadband letter to the Senate, to legislators saying we support the Senate approach. 2 of those entities had never been on the same letterhead before. Nobody sees this kind of stuff, but it's the kind of thing that I can do because I know leaders in both groups. So the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities and the townships were on the same letterhead, on the same letter for the first time ever, and that was a breakthrough. But those are the kind of things that not having an organization directly accountable to rural counties, it wouldn't have happened. So buffer strips, that was an important thing. We came up with the formula that actually was in the bill for a county to receive funding if it decided to go forward and be the administrator of the buffer strip legislation. So we know we needed funding and an incentive to the counties based on a formula. And the Minnesota Rural Counties Caucus, along with the watersheds, put that funding formula together. County program aid was primarily an AMC thing. They're better at it than we are, so we let them have it, but it's an important thing to our member counties. And then the state general tax. This is something that's a little out of our mainstream, but this was an issue that was brought up by an Aitkin County commissioner, a delegate to our board, who said this is a very important thing. If you can't keep your businesses, this is a state general tax. It's a property tax on top of your property tax, the state general tax. And so he said, especially in resource areas, Morrison County. This is a very important thing to provide relief to those smaller businesses on the state general tax so that more of that money can stay in Main Street. So we supported that. It became one of our priorities, and it was a part of the tax bill that did not get signed. Just on the transportation funding, you got to tell me when to stop because there's more. On the transportation funding, we did some pretty good things as well. We, number one, our message is constitutionally dedicate those dollars. Protect those dollars so that our engineers and our local road planners can plan. They have money that they know is going to count on. It's not a patchwork. It's not, it's money they can count on. So constitutionally dedicate that money is foremost on our list of priorities. The second is local roads and local bridges. We had $90 million in the bonding bill for local bridges. That's a great number. Local roads, I think it was at about $120 million. Great number. Our group, the Minnesota Rural Counties Caucus, when we saw, this is 10, 15 years ago now, a lot of money going to the metro area on what we call major projects, just a lot of money coming out of the funding cycle. Look for a way to counterbalance that, and that's where the 10-ton road system came up. We developed the 10-ton road system, inter-counties, and then talked to the engineers about creating a system. The challenge has been getting that funded in all the previous years, and in recent years, we've been doing pretty well. But that's, again, local roads. If you can't, that first haul out of the field or out of the forest is key to the regional, state, and actually national economy. When you're talking agriculture and the products that we have that are number 1 through number 5 in ag product production and timber. So, also, late in the session, when things were stalled, we came up and on the gas tax on the House side, we came up and said that gas tax is never going to fly in the House. So we put our engineers to it. We've got a great work team of engineers, and said, where is the growth? Where can we get growth and still be constitutionally dedicated? And the answer to that was tab fees. Tab fees are the highest, show the highest growth trajectory. Gas tax kind of flattens out. And so we made the suggestion and did runs and sent them to the governor a week before the session ended. And if you remember, on a Friday, he was going to hunker down and come out on a Monday before the end of session with a plan, and he adopted that plan that the Minnesota Rural Counties put together on the on the tab fee increases. So we felt pretty good about that. And now just one last thing on that is now the discussion is the tax on auto parts revenues would go towards transportation. The problem with that is it's not constitutionally dedicated. So they're asking us, rural counties really, to accept the risk. They said we can dedicate it later. Just trust us on the transfer of funding. The number is good. It's just not protected. So we've been around long enough. Here today, gone tomorrow. That next time that budget takes a dip, that money is going away. So our question is, why should we accept the risk? Why not do the constitutional dedication first? Do that first. Show us some good faith. And I've got to be honest with you, I've got real reservations about the prospect that that would be a successful ballot question. So,
Gentlemen, do you have any questions for Dan?
can I talk about two more things real quick?
Well, we're
Vulnerable children
gonna
and
time
adults.
limit here, so if,
Okay, you did very well on vulnerable children and adults, a formula that we froze. If you look at these last two things, I kind of carved out Morrison County in this. It looks like if you, I didn't do the math except on the page, but if you subtract this number from this number, you get $59,842 that was saved by these calculations for Morrison County alone on the Vulnerable Children and Adults Act. And then top that off with the Greater Minnesota Regional Park and Trail System, a brand-new state-of-the-art regional park and trail system in Greater Minnesota. They just named the first 25 new projects were funded. 22 are regionally designated. That's the next phase. They're gonna be up to 60 to 90 projects here in the next couple of years. Brand-new state-of-the-art system. Wetlands, we did wetlands, so back in, that was how this group started. 3-tiered wetland system as opposed to one-size-fits-all and a 4-to-1 ratio in terms of your, any project out here, you're gonna mitigate at a 4-to-1 ratio. You probably a 50% county, I think that gets you down to 1 or 2-to-1 ratio, but we helped you there as well. So thank you.
Gentlemen, any questions? And if I may, Dan, the reason we brought you here is this is first time in what, 2 or 3 years he's been here, maybe? Wasn't here last year, right? You know,
It's been a while since you've been up, I don't know
Right.
that.
You know, and the questions came up, you know, why are we involved in MRCC? What are you doing for us as a county? You know, and those are questions coming up, so, again, a lot of information. For me to especially to absorb. So I would like maybe to contact him at a later date and see, I don't know about you gentlemen, but myself personally, just to see what things have you proposed, what things have come through. You bring up, like you asked for $1 million, we didn't get it. Transportation funding, well, we have the tab fees, that doesn't come through because of whatever reasons, you know. So myself is just to see what, as far as you yourself personally are doing for the Morrison County and the other counties, you know. So the question also, we have more than 80 counties in the state. We're 22 here, it looks like, correct?
28.
28. Or am I missing the other 6 here someplace? But okay, you know, so that's about 1/3. You know, so those are questions that I have come up. Why aren't the other counties involved? And, you know, so again, we don't need to answer them, but I'd like to call you someday and have a discussion. Anything else?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very kindly for your time.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
Thanks much.
Do we want, Helen's been here. Should we go one more time? Can we wait for?
I'm not.
No, hell,
We understand.
All right, then let's take a break. All right. Helen, what do you have for us?
Well, thank you for seeing me again. I said, I know I'm getting kind of like, oh my gosh, here she is again. I realize that I've seen you 5 days out of the last 7, so.
that's why I didn't come last night.
But maybe you haven't gotten sick of Mike yet. Thanks again for having us. And thank you so much for attending the Water Festival last year. That's an important event for us through the water plan, and thank you for attending our tour. So I think through those 2 events, you kind of get a wind of some of the other things we do. WACA, the Wetland Conservation Act, is a big part of our workload, although it is down. The gentleman before me said we're a 50% county. We're actually a 50-80 county. There's a band of 14 counties in the middle of the state that have the most wetland impact in the state of Minnesota, and we are number 2. Stearns and us are number 2 for Wetland Act. But we have gone out on as many as 500 site appointments a year. This year it was down to about 268, so that's good. The unfortunate part of that is we had 12 violations. 10 of those are resolved. 1 is working and the other one's lawyered up, and so
Todd Chantry's done the work with that one too, because not only was it a violation, but then they violated the cease and desist order. So a lot of what we do is not, you know, so many agencies, I mean, if you're DNR wildlife, you deal with wildlife areas and planting. If you're DNR fisheries, you deal with fish habitat and fisheries and lakes, and DNR waters deals with water levels and irrigation permits. We laugh at the end of the day when we fill out our timesheet by column that we literally never get to finish what we started at 7:30 that morning, and we might be divided into 5 different programs in the course of an hour. You've got ACUB, you've got state cost share, you've got your federal people coming in for federal farm program decisions, you've got Wetland Conservation Act. But I wanted to talk today because you do see a lot of us, you know a lot of what we do. We did spend about 600 hours this last year, from September 1 of last year to September 1 of this year, just working with planning and zoning issues, going out on conditions that you set on CUPs or variances, working on requests from planning and zoning on bluff determinations, working with landowners as to whether if they got this building lot, is this buildable? Is this lot contains wetlands? So about 600 hours were devoted to just planning and zoning work. Along with that, me coming to your wonderful Board of Adjustments and Planning Commission meetings and enjoying the evening, so that's always part of it.
I think
But
you're
thought
fibbing a
that-
little bit, but that's okay.
I might be being a little glib. 2 things I wanted to talk about is what we know about the buffer law. The buffer law is becoming more complex than they ever granted. I think it's lofty to think we can be done on time, because they just don't realize that we do have a lot of other things. We probably are going to have to hire another person, and the state has given us money to do that. But working just on that, bodies take space though, and that's my biggest constriction. Steve Bukowski is clearing out a cubicle over there for us to occupy. I'm not sure if that'll be shared back and forth to our office with Mike, or whether if we bring in another technician to just work the buffers, what we'll do with that. NRCS is maybe losing one, so we may be able to, it's in the storeroom, but we may be able to take over what was an NRCS station. So we're not sure about that, but the buffer law, I wanted to explain some bombshells that we've learned. First of all, the DNR mapping wasn't done until July. Then fortunately for us, Brad out of your planning and zoning office took that and put it on better maps. It was so congested for a county like ours that has a lot of DNR public inventoried lakes, a lot of DNR public streams and rivers, and then you've got your 88 miles of public ditch. So Brad took that and put it into 3 gigantic maps, and Camp Ripley was good enough to laminate them. And then Brad also made us individual maps for each township. Makes it a whole lot easier to work with. But we learned last Thursday, and Commissioner Wencher was there to hear it too, Maggie Leach from the Board of Water and Resources. We hadn't even read our emails fully to know this, but by January 1, we have to have gone into those maps and put yes or no by parcel as to whether we give it a no if we're not sure. We give it a yes, they're in compliance if it's very obvious they already have adequate buffer. How many is that going to generate? We have no idea. The letters must go out to those landowners within the next 2 or 3 months to get them on deck, because as Mike pointed out, if they know they're going to have a buffer before planting season 2017, they need to know what we expect of them so they don't continue to row crop up to that. I learned something else interesting last week, because it keeps coming up with farmers. Well, how come you're not doing anything about all that great big manufacturing and that's all bare on that shoreline? And I thought that it read that only agriculture was being addressed right now, and for our work part of it, it is. But if that body of water has shoreline management rules that already apply, that portion of it could kick to Amy to have to enforce the shoreline management rules on that area needing a buffer. So it's not just farmers, but it's primarily farmers. So by January 1, we have to say we have 1,300 no's, we've got 2,000 yeses, or is it just a few hundred? We don't know. We're just starting that. We're gonna put all 4 of us on it to some degree as soon as Mike comes out of the field on culvert elevations. But Lance and Alan and I will start that now. We're dividing the county into 4 sections, and we'll start getting that. By March of 2017, you must determine whether or not you want to take on enforcement. And enforcement will mean that person that doesn't comply. November 1, 2017, all public waters must have that buffer. Again, I have no idea how many landowners we're talking about. I don't know how many of them will appeal and say something different, which kicks back to us for a different decision. I don't know how many of them will expect us to field verify it with them. Is it everybody? Is it just some of them? So the gentleman before me was right that there is a formula created as to what it could possibly mean for administering the enforcement action. There's not a lot of direction on how you would handle that. Is it through Brian's office? Is it through Amy's office? How would you actually enforce that? Is it administrative penalty orders, which is what the state will use? If you don't respond to Bowser, Board of Water and Soil Resources, by March, it means we're not taking the administration. The dollar figure I saw, and don't quote me on it, was in the neighborhood of something like $70-some thousand they would pay the county to administer the enforcement. But without knowing what that means, and I don't know what your desire is to hire somebody, or whether that would just go to Brian or Amy's office to deal with it, I don't know. It's a complicated issue, and I don't know what your enforcement action is right now. You work with Brian and Amy on those that are in violation of ordinance, so does it run the same way? Not a lot of real clear direction. In August 22nd, we finally had our full training session on how this was finally going to shake out. Now they're putting together a mapping tool. They claim that they've got it done. Every soil and water gets 3 seats, three connections, passwords to get into it. We applied for those last week, have not heard whether we're set up or not, to be able to go in on the tracking tool. As we're working with Mike on his property and he's involved, we have to say, Mike is not required to do anything. Mike is required to do anything, and here's what he's gonna have to do. That's a tracking tool. So as we're assessing those by January 1st, we're gonna have to have some way of logging those parcels that we feel the letter must go to. The contact must be made. But we probably should also send a letter out to those that aren't going to be required to do anything. I'm gonna write another article and submit it to the paper in the next few days to try to explain this. We do get a lot of phone calls and a lot of office calls on how am I affected. We've been in the field a few times on it already. So by July of 2017, my office has to submit to you what else we feel should be buffered. And they warned us, you better have a darn good reason if you say nothing else. We already have some response from township boards saying, we know some other areas we feel must be buffered. If they have a problem with a road right-of-way ditch because the cropland is annual and it's a constant maintenance, that may be indicated in a right-of-way ditch that outlets into a public water, that field area probably should be buffered. It could be some of those non-designated streams that aren't on the public water inventory, and I'll give you an example. Wolf Creek in Platte Township has no DNR designation, but it empties into the Platte. We actually went ahead and looked at it. It's all buffered now, yay. The other thing we don't know is what is the monitoring requirement going to be, but these are some deadlines. So as a county, think about that March deadline. You must indicate to Bowser whether or not you're going to enforce. If you do nothing, then Bowser has to enforce it. And that's what you did elect to do with Wetland Conservation Act. You had the choice of dealing with enforcement locally or kicking that to DNR. I thought that they would put this on DNR too. It's already a system we have in place. They did not, so the enforcement will go to Bowser if you choose not to enforce it. So I don't wanna spend, so July is our deadline on other waters, March is your deadline for enforcement. November 1, 2017, all public waters must have a 50-foot buffer in the ag complicated areas. It can be hayed, it can be grazed. By November 1, 2018, all of your public ditches must be buffered by 16.5 feet. So it's-
Helen,
Sure.
if I may, we're one of 87 counties.
Yes.
Do you have, and please, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Do you have any insight from any other county as to what they're doing? Or is everybody listening to someone like you today?
Everybody
I don't mean to be
probably
rude.
is somewhat, how do we jumpstart this? Because the maps were done so late, the training was done so late, the tool for tracking is done so late. But now, soil and water, you got 1 year to get it done, you know, which is, and we know, and we're gonna give you some more money. So, and they did, and we can hire additional staff, but then we have to train those staff. So it's complicated, and I think that no one has a real good handle on it, with the exception of Becker County up around Detroit Lake, or Grant County, I'm sorry. Grant County has done it. They've done it since day one,
Yep.
years ago, and they have over 16,000 acres in buffer on public waters. So they're the only county that enforced the law back when it was first written. This is not a new law. It's just a newly enforcement issue of getting it done.
Yep.
The other part of that, and you're well aware of what we intended to do, so Mike is here to tell you, we've got Platte and Little Falls townships pretty well completed as far as the inventory, but that LCCMR grant of $209,000, which enables us to do a performance drainage management plan for the entire county. I'm gonna kick it to you to say how we're gonna put that together.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You had, and Amy's here too, I'm sure her ears are buzzing, but, does the statute identify the enforcement mechanisms?
No.
Not at all, not even if
Bowser's-
Bowser does it?
Bowser is required to develop how you should do it.
But not even, does it grant the authority to the county to
Yes.
create that
Yes.
enforcement
yes.
mechanism, or the penalties or the tools that we would have in place? Is that what it does?
Yes, you can develop how you would handle enforcement. And like I said, I don't know what you do right now. I know that an ordinance violation is Amy and Brian working together. I'm assuming that would be similar, because I don't know if you do administrative penalty orders. There is some language in there as to what the penalties can be financially. And so I would encourage Brian and Amy to look at that carefully, go in on the Board of Water and Soil Resources, buffer, or Bowser's website, look at the buffer law and see what the guidelines are for county enforcement, because you're going to need to know what that consists of, and then probably take Brian and Amy's recommendation as to whether or not you should enforce or just kick it to Bowser. If Bowser handles it, it'll be done through administrative penalty order.
Thank you, sorry.
That's okay. So, Mike, let's talk about what
Okay.
you've done to date.
So for all of you that don't know me, my name is Mike Becker. I'm primarily working on this culvert inventory LCCMR grant project that we have, along with all the other work that I get pulled off to do. I am trying to race the snowflakes to get another township done before it snows too much. So I gave everyone a packet of information. This is a snapshot, a brief summary of what we've got finished so far. And the maps and the spreadsheets in the back are just a small little snippet of what we're gonna supply to the townships. So the first page is the culvert summary as of yesterday. So here it lists how many total culverts we've found in the townships we've worked on, 618 culverts. Now this is not including state highway right-of-way, so Highway 27, 25 is not included in here. Highway 10, 371 is not included in here. And the center line culverts on county roads, Steve's Public Works Department's already collecting that. That's not included in my maps and or my spreadsheets yet. We've been told that we're gonna get that data to add into it. So the culverts that are listed on the maps and in the spreadsheets are township centerline culverts, township driveway culverts, and county road driveway culverts. There might be some miscellaneous other culverts thrown in there, you know, maybe a tile line or some other thing that I thought would be important to add into the drainage management plan. So in here, the maps, this is similar to what you guys have. Aerial photo of the township, of just a quarter of the township, and this is up to debate. We've talked about different layouts that we're gonna supply to the township that makes it maybe a little more user-friendly, but just to get it out of the controller and on paper and, you know, out of my mind so I can move on to the next one, we've created these maps. And there's a legend on the side telling which different types of culverts have been located. And then there's some areas that there are some encroachment, whether that's cropping encroachment or a pasture encroachment, or in Little Falls Township, there was a garden that was right in the bottom of the ditch. You know, just something that, you know, maybe is gonna influence the drainage of that area. And then the section lines and the township lines. So on back to the summary, the overall summary, there was 70 miscellaneous GPS shots that were taken. So these are mostly culverts that I could locate with metal detector, but I couldn't find the ends. Most of them were that. There were some that were, what were they? A sprinkler system control box was right in the ditch by Morrison RV. Now, is that an important thing? Maybe not, maybe it is, but I located it while I was out there. And then there was the 9 right-of-way encroachments. So like I said, those were either crop encroachments or pasture encroachment, a fence encroachment, garden, those type of things. So Little Falls Township, I collected 282 culverts that I was actually able to inventory and do the whole 9 yards with. 22 miscellaneous GPS shots. Like I said, most of them were pipes that I just couldn't locate the ends. 2 right-of-way encroachments. Platte Township, surprisingly, was almost the same quantity of culverts, which really surprised me. They had 269 culverts that were inventoried, 40 that were not, that were miscellaneous shots, 7 right-of-way encroachments. And then as I did these 2 townships, I figured I'm going down the township line, I might as well do the culverts on the other side, which included Bellevue, Belle Prairie, Boo, Granite, Pulaski, Ripley, and 2 Rivers. So that's kind of the overall of how far we've gotten in 2.5 months or so, maybe 3. So what we're gonna supply to the townships is the maps, these spreadsheets in the back, and I'll get to the spreadsheets, but then this is just the next page is a Platte Township brief culvert inventory summary. So this is just so that I could get it out of my mind and write it down saying that at this location, there's a problem. Now, I didn't really write what maybe that solution was to be, just to get it out of this massive database, which the spreadsheet itself was, what was it? Depending on whatever font you had it at, it was like 48 pages. Well, that's a lot of information to try to get your head wrapped around 4 months later in the middle of winter. So I took time now to inventory what maybe some of the problems are that I found. And I won't read the whole thing, but some of the issues was a cattle pass needed to be fixed. It was very short. The shoulders of the road were extremely steep, almost vertical. And inside the cattle pass, it looked like it was an old bin that was folded in half and stuck in the road, and one of the the welds with all the rivets on it had buckled, and it was buckled out into the interior of the cattle pass, and gravel was dumping into it. So, that would be, more abnormal, situation. A lot of culverts were crushed, a lot of culverts were buried, a lot of culverts needed, the ditches cleaned out, the vegetation cleaned out, the sediment cleaned out. There was suggest road shoulder slope repair and extend on many locations between this road and this road. So that too was, the culvert was really narrow, maybe over the years, the township had added gravel to it, and it widened just, a foot or two. And now instead of the shoulder slopes being a safe 3-to-1, 4-to-1 slope, it's now 1-to-1 or vertical. That too, the pipe might not have been large enough. Let's see, what are other ones? There was other pipes that were just so badly deteriorated, down here at the bottom, there's culverts listed all out. There's 8 of them that were under MnDOT condition number 4, which is they're either collapsed or they're completely rusted through or completely compromised in some way. So there was 8 culverts in Platte Township that were in extremely bad condition that I would suggest needed to be fixed, next year. Or as soon as possible. They might even cave in over the winter.
Mike, what about all of these culverts that you're finding with the metal detector? You can't find an end on each side. They've been perhaps blocked for 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Yep.
mean to be smart, but
No,
God only knows how long.
That's exactly it.
They're not there.
So now with a culvert like that, maybe it's just simply digging it out, putting in a new culvert, and reestablishing the drainage, and your drainage problem's fixed.
Or are we
Maybe.
establishing that we need to have drainage?
Well, and I would assume funding for that, the township's not going to view as the simple solution. So I don't know, what is the follow-up, or what is the intent to try to?
As he finishes each township, they will get this summary and the maps and the spreadsheets that tell you condition, length, the whole enchilada. It spells out, as you can see on those spreadsheets, there's like a lot of parameters as well as remarks. The township will then take this information and start doing their planning, the work. They can't address it all in 1 year. They will start looking at the priority of where they have problems, and it'll help them understand what their workload needs to be and start scheduling theirs. The end product, once we have every township, all 30 done, and we plug in the county roads and how that fits into it, is to then layer LIDAR over it and determine, do we have areas that water is absolutely not moving right and it's causing road safety issues, it's certainly causing cropping issues, and then we will assist that township with how to address that. And we will give them a final report, all of them, as well as the county, what a final performance drainage management plan for the county needs to be. One of the parameters he's looking at is, he's already noting to him the condition of that culvert. Is it wetland adjacent? Because if it is, then those townships know we need to be involved with culvert work. Townships come to us on a weekly basis. We'd like you to look at this section of road because we feel we need other culverts. And that's what we do. We go out and assist them with, yes, you can put another culvert in here, and here's the elevation it should need to be. We'll also need to work with all of them. Okay, now you've replaced this. You need to tell us you replaced it. You have the elevation of where it needs to be. If you want to make a change to that, it might require some additional input. But please let us know when you've replaced a culvert, so we go back in to keep the inventory completely current.
And this is, the grant came from where? I missed that.
LCCMR, Legislative Commission for Minnesota Resources.
Okay, so I assume that was township supported, because this is great information for them to have.
You supported it with a
yeah,
letter, as
exactly.
well as Steve Pekowski's office. Yeah, and they were excited.
Yep,
They
it
said it
helps
was the
with the
first
planning,
county in
I'd
40 years that was willing to take on their drainage issues. We're going to learn in the end that right-of-ways need to be improved. That too will have to work through the Wetland Conservation Act, but we have to take into consideration the climate changes. Our infrastructure as is was built for 10-year storms. It's not built for 100-year storms or 50-year storms, which are becoming the new norm. We have to address how do we move water efficiently, safely, environmentally right, but get the water off the landscape in an efficient manner. That's performance drainage. So it's not we're scared because we don't think we can actually get this done in 3 years, which is what we have, but they'll give us a 1-year extension. But it also dictates to me just how much I can pull Mike off to do other things, although we're pretty committed with Steve's office to take back on delineations on county road work, so. And just from the sheer boredom of this, you gotta pull him off to some things, or this gets so tedious that, you know, so.
Each culvert's gotta be interesting, though. I mean,
Well, there's been some, there's been some interesting ones. You look inside and go, wow, I can't see the other end, and it's completely caved in, and
Blocked up.
no
Some of
wonder
it's-
there's water backed up on the other side.
We're gonna
Commissioner
take
Wilson.
this to the township board meetings on October 19th. We'll demonstrate what we're going to do. We need to ask them to specifically name who your road supervisor is, because we constantly get all three of them in saying something different. Who is your road supervisor? And that's who we need to work with. So you've got those spreadsheets, they're complicated, but please take a look at that. That's really a complex inventory to help townships know exactly where they're at with their drainage issues.
Mr. Chair, I think this is fantastic. If I'm not mistaken, a year or 2 years ago, somebody from Platte Township asked for something like this at the annual meeting. And the part I see disturbing to them is going to be all the things that need to be fixed and how we do this. But by having this, will that help them possibly getting funds and stuff in a manner of this might qualify for this?
Absolutely.
And this qualifies for this, and prioritizing the things that are real bad?
It'll definitely help. I would see that it would definitely help with their planning for, the next 5 years out, knowing that, hey, we've got, these 15 culverts that are in really bad shape, maybe we need to look into these 15 and not this one over here that we thought
Just
was bad.
satisfies one landowner, yeah.
Because I think the
So-
comment that night 2 years ago was, we don't know when things are bad until the car falls through. And I think they're right. I think you're probably seeing that out
Yeah.
there. Very interesting. I like this, but the problem with all this good stuff is there's a cost somewhere to take care of it all, and that's.
Cost right there with Mike doing it.
Beyond the
Right.
LCCMR grant is, our goal is, and I think the state is saying fairly positive things, and with that leverage money that I've already spoken to you about, our goal is that once this is all completed, then we still have enough funding to keep Mike on, and a good part of his job will be constant assistance to not only Public Works, but to the townships. Steve's strapped too, to be able to constantly help townships, but the need is there, and they need someone with engineering technical experience that Mike has to go out and how do we solve this issue? And then it would be more than just your summary. Now he would actually go out and say, here's what you're gonna need to do, and help with that. And basically, if it's within the right of way, he's certainly capable of designing that. Yeah, that's what he did with Seth Smith and Knowlton for 8 years. The question we had from Jackie Keir from Platte, she suddenly wanted us to design a road. That's a bit beyond us. We're not, he's not an engineer. That work has to be signed off by an engineer. So we can help you with your drainage part of it, how that water moves around that road. We really don't have either the time or the expertise to design your road.
Mr. Chair, and getting in on the front of this is good stuff
Very
because of
good
the
stuff.
grants. And you're in the front, and Little Falls was kind of trailing on MS4 cities when the Headwaters Board gave them the grant to do their stormwater analysis. Boy, they had to have that to get granting. This is
Yeah.
important stuff, and being in the lead, boy, what a benefit.
And with the water plan, we will certainly add these specifics into the plan, Because if it's in the water plan and it's specifically stated, that's when you have the leverage to get the money. But yes, it will enable townships to apply for funding. And for us to
And
apply for
Helen,
funding.
there's not too many that are even got this grant in the other counties, is there?
Well, there's LCCMR money given out every single year, and Crow Wing got a huge grant, even larger than ours, for forest management, and they actually will extend that down into Morrison County. This portion, we're already receiving requests from surrounding counties to want to show them the equipment. I want to thank Commissioner Mauer and Steve Bukowski for bringing to our attention a different software and equipment that we could use that actually lowered the cost of the equipment to about less than half,
It's
maybe
like a
about a third
Yeah.
of what we intended to buy
Yeah,
to do
it's-
the equipment. And it's a local company right here in Little Falls, and they were already using this equipment with your Public Works Department. Great, great opportunity to, and because we're both working with the same equipment, it's gonna make us able to coordinate this with the county system completely.
And what was the difference in the dollar figure? It was like,
37,000 for a new Trimble.
Yeah.
I think
This is
we've spent
under
about
12?
under,
that's something
yeah,
of a difference.
$10,000,
And that one works better
$12,000.
than $12,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And in
the-
fact, it enables us to buy another whole system if we need it, cause I really think I'm gonna have to put on another person to help get this done, as well as work on the buffer, so, you know, we'll buy a second system and still be within budget.
Mr. Chair, and I think Commissioner Wilson asked this, I can't believe, and I think Brad knows too, I mean, if you look at different counties and how proactively or not they go at some of this stuff, I mean, I think that's why some rules come in, is because even the child protection stuff, to consistently match what different counties are doing as opposed to counties all doing their own thing. I mean, so there's counties that are gonna be way behind the 8 ball on this stuff as opposed to our proactive role in this, which is gonna open us up to a lot more resources.
And I bring up the 911 signs.
Yep.
Look at there, because some counties got that all paid for, because they're proactive, got in ahead of it.
Yeah.
Now the townships and everybody else had to pay
We did
for
the
it.
same thing when we tried to get funding together to digitize the soil survey, so it could then be put on Beacon, and we would have the access to it. The county couldn't afford to do it. The state refused to pay for it, as well as NRCS, which it was NRCS's product. So I rallied every partner I could, planning and zoning, public works, DNR, everybody, to come up with the $88,000 we needed to match. The Bowser took it on, they got it done for us, and the very next year, they did Todd counties for nothing. Ask me if I was happy with that one, you know.
I think we can tell.
And now they're doing Crow Wings as well. It's like, you know, just because we do Jumpstart, sometimes it penalizes. I guess we could sit in the weeds
You're
and be a
right.
sleeper. And then, but the landowner demand and the landowner problems dictate that this sort of thing has to be addressed. It can't just sit in the weeds. They
Tom,
need help.
Have you ever talked, I mentioned before, but NJPA, have you talked to them at all about any financing for this project with townships? Are you done?
I think we're a little premature because we've only got 2 townships that we're even
Well, the-
summarizing.
the-
But that's a very good point, and that may be a grant source to, as we get completed with them, you know, we could assist them in tapping into that for some grant monies,
The
absolutely.
reason I say that is they had approved of paying half the cost of finding this information that you're doing with the townships, up to like $6,000 or $7,000 a township.
Okay,
And I'm just wondering if Anna Gruber is the one that we should contact
okay,
and see if there's already something in place that may be able to defer some money over
to
to
the
you to help
townships
the
to actually get it
townships
done.
to help this. So I'll talk to you about it
Good idea,
afterwards,
great,
because we
great
need to just
information.
check to see, because I know they approved something, but I don't, we'll get the details.
That's a source, you know, the old saying, you know what you know, but you have no idea what you don't know. I mean, even the groups that came in before us, I thought, who are they? what are they up to? And I never even heard of them, you know, and they probably think soil and water, who are they? Never heard of them, you know, but, is there any other questions? I know we're probably over our time, but thank you for listening to this. I think these are two extremely big workload issues that we're tackling, and thank you for your constant support, so.
And
Thank
for
you.
your hard
Thank you
work.
guys for
and
what
you
you're
know,
doing.
It's
We got
important
real
that-
lucky. He told me that he interviewed Todd and Stearns and got overlooked, and I said, I know Todd and Stearns. They have it picked out before they ever even conduct interviews.
You
They're-
wanna be here,
You know, and I
right?
said, now I'm kinda like, God, I don't even wanna tell you about this other opportunity I just saw, because you don't want it to be a horrible place to work.
Are you
But
gonna-
we got really lucky.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, are you gonna present this at all at the townships?
The township annual meeting, they're putting us on number one. Mike actually lives over by Osaka, so right now it's a daily commute for him, so Babe agreed to put us on first, because we do wanna present this to the township meetings. We're also presenting it to the 12 county area 2 meeting in March, because we wanna demonstrate this RT Vision software, and other counties might be able to come up with that kind of money to increase their own capacity and kick Tom Gertz a lot of work, so, or a lot of money, so,
Good stuff, local business benefiting.
Mike
absolutely.
in Morrison County is a great place to live, just letting.
There you
and
are.
work.
He's coming, he's coming,
I'm
he's
looking.
gonna try to sell and find a location. I have a house for sale, but they can't have chickens now that the city
There you
annexed
go.
me. Darn, it's big enough to accommodate his whole family, but
Randall
he can't
just
have.
approved that, I think,
Yeah.
didn't they, chicken?
I don't know. But we've gotta get it
Thank you.
closer.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for all your-
Thank you very much.
Sheriff's report.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Sheriff.
Morning. I think we're 30 minutes over, so I'll make this into a 5-minute presentation.
Sounds good.
Whatever time you guys
You were
need.
looking for, weren't you?
So this will be the monthly report concerning August. And just a couple things I want to highlight before I start. Number one, we did it's a disposal unit for a medication disposal unit. We did do a news release on it. Just wanted to give the board an update on that. So now we have one in Piers, we have one in Royalton. I'm sorry, we have one in Piers, Randall, Little Falls Police Department, and the Morrison County Sheriff's Office in our lobby. So we ended up collecting all the pills at the end of August, and then again, just recently, the end of September here. And we had, what was it? It was 30 pounds of pills, so just from our unit alone.
Really?
So it's good to point out that it is working. There's a lot of government employees that use it, and there's a lot of local people that just come here and use it as well. So it's good for everybody, and just wanted to throw that out to give you guys an
And
update.
Sean, I'm assuming these places are secure.
Correct. So what it is, we have 24/7 surveillance on ours because it's in the lobby of the sheriff's office. Little Falls Police Department, you cannot access it unless you're allowed in. And of course, you got Randall City Hall and you got the City of Piers. And the City of Piers, basically, it's in a locked room where the public does not have access to it, so.
Sean,
Yeah.
when disposing, do they dispose the whole pill bottle and everything, or is it just the pills go into this machine?
It's a good question. So what's accepted, I'll go over it. It's prescription patches, prescription medications, prescription ointments, over-the-counter medications, vitamins, and even medications for pets. So some people do bring the bottle and just throw the whole bottle in, but if they just want to put it in a Ziploc container and drop the pills in, that's fine as well.
And the thing is, those bottles, I know a lot of our church groups, they use them for recycling, for overseas, they use them so you can reuse the pill bottle. They want them, when you return them, take your name off, of course.
Yeah.
But it's good to get out to the public. I know I just had a discussion with a gentleman today, before I came to work. It was at coffee, and he was telling me how he had surgery and he had all these oxycodone pills. And I told him, I said, here's the deal. There may be family members, there may be friends, there may be somebody that was prescribed these pills, and they could be addicted to these pills. So do yourself a favor and get rid of those pills, whether it's with us, the Little Falls Police Department, or whomever, because that's what's happening in the county. People have an addiction and they're gonna possibly steal those at some point, so unless they're locked up properly.
Well,
So-
Mr. Chair, and the question comes up for me, and I'm aware of this, but anyways, as far as the opiates, all right? And they're being, you dispose of them how? What do you do with them? How do you dispose of them?
Well, there's a couple different places that we actually utilize. It has to be DEA approved.
Right, right.
And one is in Perm, they have an incinerator. And then there's another one in Douglas County, Alexandria. So they burn these pills.
And that's important, because if you dump them in the toilet, they end up in our water system, and they have a half-life that will last for some of them up to a century. So very careful, they've done testing in wells and found high levels of cocaine, but it's not, it's opiates. People take their pills, dump them into the toilet or into their septic system, it ends up in the groundwater. And of course, then you're drawing wells, and it's a big deal in some areas, so that's good they're being incinerated, I just wanted to
Yep.
highlight
The
that.
safest way, of course, and the most proper way to dispose of them is to use the drop box.
Yeah.
So, any other questions on that? I know one of our commissioners, Commissioner Jelinski, was instrumental in helping out with a letter of support, so we're able to get this drop box through CVS pharmacy at no cost. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm just gonna kind of skip around. We'll just kind of go to civil process, because the complaints, we'll use the graph in the end. So our civil process papers received was 86. We brought in $2,115. Drug investigations, you can see what we have there listed. One controlled buy, one controlled substance search warrant, one controlled substance agency assist, and 2 possession of controlled substance methamphetamine. And then, of course, we have 1 possession of marijuana, drug paraphernalia, it's all lumped sum together. The biggest thing with this is our guys are staying busy. I talked to our task force agent yesterday, matter of fact, kind of get an idea what's going on. We're busy with methamphetamine and prescription pills. We're going after, of course, the buyers, and that's the cases that they're currently working on right now. So they are staying busy.
So, Mr. Chair, Sheriff, if I may, we're not cooking this stuff here.
No,
Allegedly, I'm not saying it's not happening, at all, I'm not saying that. That's not the issue. The issue is the availability. or not.
Correct. The availability where there are some sellers here in Morrison County that, of course, when we get informants or someone on a traffic stop, you know, it's to the, we ask them plain and simple, do you want to help yourself out?
Yep.
And if they choose to do so, that's how we're collecting our information. And first thing we're asking is, who's your supplier? Who's supplying the middleman? Try and get up that chain, that ladder as fast as we can. So as far as labs, no, we don't have any labs, thankfully. But we do have someone trained, which I'll get into the training aspect. I'll jump into it right now. We sent Investigator McDonald to a 1-week course in Quantico, Virginia. And it was a site safety lab school. And through this school, he was certified through all labs to include methamphetamine, synthetics, fentanyl. In case some of this stuff would show up on a roadside or at a residence, how do you properly, you know, take control of the scene and dispose of these items? So that's what he's trained for. And with that certification, he can bring that back to other task force members and train them as well. So, going back to our training, I think it's a typo, because we sent all our deputies to shotgun training last month, as well as it would be backup handgun qualification. So I know there was more than this, and I apologize, I just got the report yesterday and went through it, and our clerical is on vacation this week. So, long story short, it's required through the post board, that we attend a shotgun qual, and then if our officers carry backup weapons, which majority of them do, then they have to go through a post-certified course, which means a qualification course. And that's why you see the numbers, or not the numbers aren't accurate, but we did have to go through backup handgun and shotgun qual. Then, of course, there's law enforcement pursuit driving course. That's required once every 5 years in order to be involved in a pursuit with the lights and the sirens and respond to critical incident calls like that. We're required once every 5 years to go through emergency driving school. It used to be once every 3 years. Now the requirement is 5 years. Why they changed that, I don't know. But we still try and stay on that 3-year continuum. Just because with any training, you want to keep up to date and you don't want to go backwards.
Is that at Ripley then, you do that?
We do not. We do it through the St. Cloud Driving School.
Oh, yep, you said that before, I
Yep.
remember now.
And the reason for that, and not that Camp Ripley's a bad option, but right now they take a lot of our forfeitures, and they have in the past, and they'll credit us for the forfeitures. So like if, I'm sorry, I'm gonna recant that. It's not forfeitures, it's like a squad car. If we have an old squad car that they can actually use in the course, they'll pay us X amount of money, which saves us on our tuition. So it's kind of just a write-off in the end. Criminal complaints. I'm just gonna highlight kind of what's taken place. We'll go, instead of going through everything, if you have questions, let me know. You can see, we'll start, the 4% is the blue, and we'll work our way in a clockwise manner. So we had 4 assaults, and then we'll just highlight the biggest percentages. The biggest one so far going to the right would be your 10% in green. That's our property damage. The way it's broken down is I realize that there's 9 private property damage complaints, and then there was 2 business property damage complaints that was called into our office. The other one is theft. That's going to be at 25%. And that's, I guess it looks like it's orange. We have 3 thefts from a person, 10 thefts between a building and a yard. We had 7 gas drive-offs, so that's included in our theft complaint. There was 4 thefts from vehicle/watercraft, and then there were 5 credit card thefts. So the credit card could be anything. It could be you as an individual giving your credit card number to someone over the phone, and now your credit card has been used by someone else. So biggest thing is we always tell people, don't give out your credit card number unless you initiate it, especially for scams. And we also recommend that you double check, if not triple check, your statements when they come, just to verify everything is kosher. And then the biggest thing is fraud. That's the next biggest category, and that's 12% in the purple. It's fraud/scams. So we are still getting scams. As I mentioned earlier, a few months back, you know, we never really did initiate an ICR, an incident crime report, unless someone actually gave out personal information. But now we're doing it on every call. So if someone calls and says, you know, I think it was a scam, but I didn't give out any personal information, we're still making a report of it. And the reason for that is just so we have a good idea, are there certain scams going on, or is it all, you know, is it all kinds of different scams, or are there maybe 2 or 3 that are really focused on this area? And if there are, then we try and do a news release advising all the residents.
That's pretty interesting, because then you address it before, so someone isn't getting scammed and you're dealing with it, you're addressing it hopefully prior to that happening.
Correct.
Which is very correct.
So moving on to our traffic citations, again, the blue, 14% on the top of the circle. We had 19 speeds, and that again is just for the month of August. And then highlighting a couple other things, our verbal warnings is the light blue, 63%. We had 86 verbal warnings. And then there was 14 written warnings, and that's in the orange, 10%. Any questions on that?
Just one thing to say, it means a lot of people out there over the years are getting verbal warnings, and hopefully it's keeping them from getting charged at some point.
Correct, and Commissioner, like we discussed in the past, you know, if it's somebody that has a record, which we're gonna be aware of through our RMS record management system, you know, if they already had like 3, maybe 2 or 3 warnings, this person's more than likely gonna get a citation. But if it's something where they've been caught once and warned once, you know, it's officer discretion, so they can either A, issue the citation, or B, give the warning. So depending on your record.
But also, that could include a headlight out, the warnings, correct?
Correct.
You know,
Sure.
so it could be,
Anything.
you know, so it's just not that, hey, I'm speeding.
But Sheriff isn't part of that, like, let's say headlights out, now you got the opportunity to pull somebody over to see if there's more to the
Correct.
story, right?
And that's, you know, a lot of my friends will actually give me a bad time, believe it or not, and they'll say, wow, I got pulled over for 10 miles over the speed limit. Granted, it might have been midnight, 1 in the morning, but I said, that's how we actually get our drugs off the street. Not that we're saying you're a drug user, but we take it a step further with our training. We're always looking for more, because we don't want drug dealers in our county, so we're gonna do our job, and we're gonna make sure we're visible and we do a thorough job, which, you're correct, Commissioner, that's the only way to get drugs off the streets, is to actually make all these stops. So our total inmates, you'll see Morrison County on top, and I'll just highlight a couple of these. Morrison County, we averaged 43, and that was throughout the entire month. You'll see our high for the month was 49. Then, of course, we had inmates from Becker County, Wadena County, then we use that against them.
Mr. Sheriff, doesn't that not go, did it not at one time go to a collection agency? Or maybe I'm thinking of
The
something
booking
else.
does not.
Okay.
The booking fees does not, just primarily because it just sits on our books. But there's other things where if they don't pay, like the pay to stay, they have to pay $20 per day to actually stay at our jail.
Yep.
And of course, we don't wait for the money before we take them in. We take them in, they do their time, and if we don't get the money, then after 20, 30 days, it goes to collections.
That does, okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Then, of course, at some point, there's gonna be a judgment. It's gonna show that they have bad credit, and good luck getting loans.
Yeah.
So,
If your 20's not paid, you don't get in next time.
I think you're prepaid, Commissioner. That's okay.
Thank you.
Just kidding.
Thank you.
Out-of-county inmates, number of inmates held for other counties is 23. The revenue that we collected for the month of August was $24,410. Before I came up to this meeting, I just got a breakdown from January 1st of 2016 to the end of August 2016. Our total revenue so far was $238,550. So I credit the jail staff, the jail administrator, and the entire staff for doing a good job and being active, because they are busy. If you guys wanted to break down real quick, St. Louis County, we got $16,800. DOC was $4,950. Cass County, we received $153,650. And again, that was partially because of our contract. Becker County was $61,700, and Wadena County, $1,450. You'll see our pay to stay is $18,951.41. That was what was billed, and the total amount collected was $968.01. Our two-year comparison, basically our total complaints, our non-criminal complaints, and our civil process papers, and the number of inmates have all gone up. Drug investigations pretty much stayed the same, down by 1, and our criminal complaints went down from 140 to currently 114. Any questions on any of that?
Sean, I just got a question for
Yeah.
you. With the incident that happened in St. Cloud this weekend at the mall, do you do any special training? Do we do anything that we think about? I don't know.
Yep.
Just-
It's a good question. Yes, we're always doing scenario-based training for law enforcement. Part of the backup weapon that we talked about, the handgun qual, that's our policy, is the sheriff has to approve the weapon that's gonna be used off-duty, and they have to go through a qualification shoot. And once they go through that shoot, then of course, there's always scenario-based training. The scenario could be anything from being ambushed in your vehicle to, going to Camp Ripley, using some facilities, and you're shooting on the move, and other targets are advancing at you. So we're constantly doing scenario-based training.
There was another question on that with the officer that used the gun down there in a place where you can't have handguns. But if you're a law enforcement, does that give you even though you're off duty?
Correct.
That gives you the right to carry a gun in those places?
Some places, they'll be very frank about it and tell you, even law enforcement, this doesn't apply. But overall, law enforcement does overrule that. It's for the civilians stating that no handguns are allowed in this business.
Because I think it's great.
Yes.
That you have them. That's.
And as far as the training, I was at Little Falls Hospital. I don't know if the sheriff's part, the city of Little Falls was in there. They had a mock hostage going on at the hospital. I was like, wow, this is impressive, so.
Yeah, no, it's, we always encourage our deputies and staff that we can't predict the scenario. So if you're gonna carry, you can't just choose when to carry. You should be carrying at all times. So, That's all I got.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Very good, Sheriff, thank you.
All right. Brad?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning, everyone.
I have two things that I'm going to mention. The first will be the healthcare report that Cindy is going to be presenting, and this is around the medical assistance population. And we did do a few things differently, and the first page is really the frustrations with multiple systems. Currently, our staff have to use 2 different systems in the medical assistance world, which can create some challenges. So I'll let her go through it a little bit, and if you have questions, feel free to ask.
I don't know if you want me to actually read through these.
You can summarize, how's that sound?
Okay, that sounds good. The system is still not where it should be. It has improved. There are still a lot of things that take extra time to process that didn't and still doesn't take that amount of time in the Maxa system. I attached in here at the back actually what an address change requires in the new system versus what it requires on Maxis, and you can see
So
how
that's just
cumbersome
a
it is.
visual of the activities in one system versus the activities in another system.
Doesn't show you pulling your hair out.
You can come over to our offices and find that. There are some good things that are happening though. However, the last bullet point on the challenges here where there were 100+ one-source procedure updates. Actually, I just received notice that that now has exceeded 200. So that just came from DHS. So that's going to impact us even more on delays. The good thing is those address changes and pregnancy updates that are so cumbersome, the address change, when you go in Maxis, you make one change on that panel. When you go in METS, you are required to update it for every member in the household. That is changing. That's one of the procedures they're working on, so that will speed up that process. But they're gonna start rolling out these new procedures on October 3rd. I also included in there phone calls for the past 6 months. You can see that February was excessive, that was 708. So March dropped a little, I think everybody got their calls in back in February. METS renewals, we're going to be starting those. And I gave a graph showing that as well. And you can see in January we have currently, and these are apt to change, but currently we have 446 renewals that'll need to be done in the METS system.
By January 1st?
Actually, by February 1st.
So part of, with the move to the Affordable Care Act, one of the challenges has become with medical assistance, when people came in and applied, they were eligible that particular month. When the Affordable Care Act came out, a number of individuals were added to the system, and now the renewals are happening at that time. So similar to like Human Resources here, come October, November, December, they're inundated with health insurance information and getting people on plans. It happened to be the same thing with the medical assistance population as they increased with the changes to the eligibility. So it's what our staff are experiencing as well.
Other than that, as you see on here, Minnesota's doing well. There's only 5% of Minnesotans under the age of 65 that didn't have health insurance in 2015, so that's an excellent thing. Everyone's getting coverage pretty much. So there's good and bad that goes with it, and we continue to work through it. And like I said, things are better than they were the last time I was here.
Mr. Chair, Cindy, and you don't have a crystal ball either, and I got this, but what do you contribute to software that in the world we live in today just doesn't take care of itself? Just doesn't, come on, this is what we need to do, bang, and it's done. In the system of what we're working in,
I think originally they had thought that the two systems would interface, and they don't.
Okay, that helps right there.
That's a big part of it.
That helps right there.
Also, in MMIS, when we're working on a Maxis case, can go into MMIS and change dates of eligibility.
Yep.
Whereas if they're open on METS, we can't go into MMIS. It won't allow us excuse me, and won't
Do you-
allow us to make that
Do you contribute
change.
that to something, to somebody just not?
Doing their
I
homework.
hate to say not thinking, doing your homework, same thing.
That's a much higher level than me.
I can maybe explain that a little bit.
Brad, isn't it two different companies
No, it is
that
this.
developed the software for these two?
No, it's one company that has the Met system. It's called Kiram. That's the product name.
Okay.
And really, the issue stems from the fact that the implementation of the Affordable Care Act had about, even though we knew it was coming for like 4 years or 3 years, between lawsuits and fighting and arguing, the state had chosen to move in this direction to this electronic system, but didn't really move forward until the Supreme Court made a decision, and boom, it was implemented. They had to get it up and running by October 1st. And so really no chance to test, plan, implement.
No
And
matter
so-
what's been said, how easy it is to do, and it just works like that. It really, truly doesn't.
Correct.
The other thing that I will say is Cindy's worked with TRICAP now, and they have a navigator that comes over to assist with those individuals that are just interested in health insurance. Navigators are available in a number of different areas. Northern Pines has them to assist individuals in getting on medical assistance if they're coming in. So trying to alleviate some of that bottleneck with the medical assistance system. But it creates challenges to having staff having to work in two systems. It just is, we definitely need new technology. How to implement it in a way that is structured, efficient, is not always how it works out, so.
Okay, very good.
All right, anything else, gentlemen? That should
Thank
do
you,
it.
All right, thank you.
And I just have one other piece of information. I was at a directors meeting last week, and I just thought I'd let the commissioners know that Mark Zeiser, the director of Stearns County Human Services, talked with his board last week, and they're actually going to proceed, at least they voted to proceed on a lawsuit against the state of Minnesota for the cost or the bills through the state system, so the CBHHs, the regional treatment centers. Their costs are very high, and so they chose to, they have a civil division within Stearns County. They're gonna be working with Human Services, and they're gonna file a lawsuit against the state under various statutes that they seem to think says they should not have to pay these bills in which the way they are charging us. So I'll also let you know that Penny is working on a letter to deny payment on one of our bills because we have to pay for an extra week because the social worker in that particular facility was on vacation, so they wouldn't allow us to discharge that individual until they got back from vacation. So that's about $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. So Penny's gonna send a letter saying we're gonna refuse to pay that portion of the bill because we were ready, they weren't, and we shouldn't bear the burden. However, that is how it does work out in every other case.
Well, Mr. Chair, my question would be, considering in my speaking with the Crow Wing County Board and their issues of the high bills coming and not being notified, for, in one case, a month, with
Yep.
very heavy bills, and us the same way. How, do we need to write a letter? Do we need to, as a county board, protesting the way they're handling this process? I'm just curious, because if Stearns is doing it now, I mean,
I think a lawsuit probably holds a little more weight than a letter saying from the commissioners.
And
this-
that might
this
set a
stinks.
precedent too, won't it?
And I would imagine, and I would venture to bet that possibly other counties may assist or write, what do they call it, emeritus, letters of emeritus to support the position. So knowing that Stearns has done this, I wouldn't doubt that maybe some other counties will support and work with Stearns on some of these things. So it was encouraging. Mark received a lot of pats on the back last week about way to go. And, so I think this is one way which will get the state's attention about the fact that how they manage this business of individuals being released from hospitals is not very, number one, client-friendly because you're ready to go, but we're not letting you leave. Number two is calling us a week later saying they need to be out yesterday. So just in terms of how they're managing that business is not fair to the clients.
Is that something that you're tracking now that you didn't before, like Commissioner Morris said, hey, you gave us 2-day notice and they were already a week away or whatever, before release. Is that something we're being proactive now?
Yes, however, the challenge with being proactive is that the review process to make a determination about ability to discharge is all paper reviews. It is not the treatment team having that conversation. It is the site directors, it's medical directors, it's charge nurses. It isn't the treatment team having that conversation. It's all a file review based on the information within that file. So that's part of the challenge. It's hard to be proactive in planning for some of these discharges.
Well, and I think you answered my question when I asked you about writing a letter. You said that some counties are gonna write letters. You said, or jump on board or assist. That's what I was asking, basically, if we can be a help in that because of the issues that you're seeing and its impact on the county. I'm just curious if that's something you would be requesting from us as a board?
We'll keep our ear to the ground in
Okay.
terms of how this lawsuit proceeds and what counties are gonna do. This was just last week, so I think they haven't met to prepare, to plan a strategy around how to do this. So I think once the strategy is developed, once more information is provided, I think there will be opportunities for counties to help out.
I'd also like, I'm sure the board on Penny, what the resolve will be on that money that we're responsible for, that we're.
I will keep you informed.
Yeah, please
Okay,
do.
good. Thanks, Brad.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
I see we got information technology out there.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Joe was unable to be here today. He had a funeral he needed to go to, but Amy's here if you have questions specifically. I don't know if you want to come up or not. That would be great.
Yeah, come on up.
Well, this is, are we gonna do this,
Yeah.
purchase of,
Yep,
Yeah, so she
we
can
had talked about it at
represent
the planning session last week and gave kind of a explanation. Joe was here to provide an explanation of what the equipment is and what it does, and this is the formal action that's requested at this time.
so you're representing Joe, aren't you, Amy?
Yes.
Very good.
I was just
All
asked
right.
yesterday to come, so
And
hopefully you
again,
don't have any questions.
well, I'll tell you, I'll ask for a motion and a second to authorize the purchase of a new storage network serving using IT reserve funds.
So moved.
Not to exceed 38,000. I got a motion, I need a second.
Second.
I got a motion and a second, any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, we had talked about this just previously to this going down, just 2 weeks prior, regarding this was a concern that Joe had, and possibly being proactive and getting going on this, and then a couple weeks later, it does go down, so here we are. So this was explained and then once again reviewed in the planning session regarding the need to have this, so.
Well, I don't know, then it's a good point. If it's maintenance or whatever, this unit is what, 8 years old or something?
6 years old.
So,
It's
it's past its,
warranty.
prime, as they say, so it's time we need a new one.
Yep,
It's now or
Mr.
never.
Chair, it's something that Joe had brought to my attention within a couple of weeks from him coming, saying this is something we need to deal with. This is, keeps me up at night kind of thing, and so he was working, and I know Amy was instrumental in that too, working on trying to come up with options and whatnot, and built it into the 2017 budget process, but then all of a sudden, lo and behold, the things we're afraid of started to happen, and so we'd like to push that forward in 2016.
Any
Mr.
more
Chair?
discussion, Commissioner Zelinski?
I'm wondering if Amy wouldn't mind, and I know she's very capable of this, so I know I'm not putting her on the spot. We're spending $38,000. Can you give me another quick snapshot as to what in the world we're spending $38,000 on and why?
Sure. So the
Thank
current system is, like we said, 6 years old. It's past its end of warranty lifetime, so we purchased a warranty through another company, a third company that will help support it, which was great that we did purchase that because it did go down. If that would have crashed, the county's data would have been lost, gone. We have backups, but the online, like when someone walks into their office, logs in, grabs their files off of their home drive, personal drive,
Yep.
They would not have been there until we recovered them from a backup, and they could have lost a day's worth of data, a week's worth of data, depending on how far back we had to
And
go.
when we say we lost, that's gone. You're not backing up, that's gone.
Today's.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah, the
about.
backups are there, but
The
you
stuff.
could lose any
Yep.
work between the backups and what you did. So this unit holds all of your files for the county, anything that's being saved. It also runs probably 90% of our servers data, because our servers are, again, a virtual server. We've talked about that in the past, and all those are our files. And if we lose that, we would be down, the county would be down for an extensive period of time.
And if I recall, when Joe was here, he said, you know, this unit is big enough to where it's got different, if this piece fails, there's a piece in there that mirrors it, that one takes over.
Correct.
And that's just the way things are built today.
That's how it's designed. So when I say it, when Deb speaks to 2 weeks ago, it went down.
Yeah.
What went down was one of those pieces that was supposed to be mirrored, as you say. It was almost to the corruption level that if it got any more corrupt, it would start losing data. So it has a threshold. It can handle up to 75% of corruption, and it was at 75% corruption, and if it would get any less than 75, we would have data loss.
Part of doing business. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Excellent explanation.
Commissioner Wilson.
This isn't really even a question, this is part of our brains of our system that runs everything that's going down, that we need to replace because we can't get parts, and it needs to be replaced, so.
Yep,
it's
and
been
we were
budgeted.
going to budget for next year, but
Yep,
Yeah.
right.
it crashed.
Be done
this
early.
year.
All right, gentlemen, any more discussion? I have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
have a good
Thank
day.
you, have a good day.
Budget report.
Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Steve.
First one, yes, the first item we'll have is the preliminary budget to approve for the HRA at $32,500.
All right, gentlemen, I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second from Commissioner Wilson. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, and this is up 2,500 from last year. I believe they requested 35,000. We basically approved 50% of what they had requested. So that being said.
Okay, any more discussion? Not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right.
And Mr. Chair, just a quick question, not related to the vote, but this goes from full calendar year, January 1st through?
Yes.
Okay, of 2017. I just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
It's for the taxes that are levied in 2017 that people get the statements for in March.
That's why we need it this far ahead.
Yep, it's
Okay.
the statutory timeline that we follow in
Okay.
terms of
We
how
have to prove this before the 30th.
Okay,
the
thank
end
you.
of September,
Appreciate
and then it's preliminary levy that then gets brought to the board for final approval in December, which
Thank you.
we'll talk about that in the process.
I'm sure Steve will bring that.
All right. And the next one is the county's levy and budget. As you know, we've met numerous times throughout the year so far, and most likely we'll meet a few more times before we set a final levy, but this is the preliminary, this is required. This is the information that will go into, you know, the statements that go out, the truth and taxation statements that go out in November. And I'll need two motions here, one for the levy and one for the budget. With the levy being at 18,033,066 at a 3.2%. As you can see from the handout, the reason why we're going from if you look at the increase in the fourth column at 2.84 and it's going up to 3.2 is because our program aid that we get from the state was reduced by around $20,000. So that's why that percentage is gone, you know, because we lost that aid, and we certify a levy based on less the program aid before we certify. And so that's why it goes from 2.84 to 3.2, because the state cut us some extra program aid. In their formulas, we got less this year. I'm not sure why. The year before, we may have got a little more, but it's just their formulas that they use to calculate this program aid.
And that program aid formula is actually on the agenda for AMC in terms of trying to come up with ideas on how to maybe address a little bit more stable flow, so we don't have ups and downs. Here, it hasn't been as impactful as some other areas, like particular Southwest Minnesota has seen tremendous changes in their program aid, and so that's been something that there's a work group that's been working with AMC to try to advance that proposal, which not only proposes additional dollars going into the whole scheme of things, but provides maybe a bit more, well, it does provide more stability and predictability of those dollars.
Mr. Chair, and just a question for you, Steve, if you could, off the top of your head, when when our program, county program aid was the highest, okay? Weren't we at like 1.7, do you remember?
No, we're at 1.7 now. When we were at our maximum with the state participating with our programming, we were closer to $3 million.
So about 3 million. So in a span of how long we have been cut 1.3 million?
Oh, it's gone on for years. I think in the last, since, I think when Dayton became governor, I think we got some money back.
Okay.
As you remember, when the state's in a financial crisis, where they take from the counties is this program aid. This is where we get on-allotted, and we've been on-allotted.
That's at least the easiest to see area that
Yeah,
they take from the counties.
yeah, that's the
That way.
easiest to see, because it's a direct hit, because we've already set our budget and our levy, and then they go and cut it. And so that's a difficult one, because now they're just, you know, I mean, I think they've cut in 3 years that they've done an on-allotment, we've been cut close to $1.5 billion
So
over.
1.5 over how many years?
Over a 4, there's been about 3 times we've been on-allotted, but it probably went over a 10-year period, maybe, somewhere in there. You know, when the state's in a financial crisis, you know, those, for 2 of those years, it was 2 years in a row we got cut. You know, they say we're gonna get this, we never got that.
And that money that's being cut has to be made up in a levy, correct?
Well, we either make cuts or it's gonna be fund balance
Oh,
that we
right,
use.
okay, so we either,
Yeah.
that's right, okay, but we tend to make it up in levy.
We have a number of different tools on
Yeah.
how
Right,
to
right,
manage
right,
that,
right, right.
and we've used
Yeah.
various tools on it.
Gentlemen, I'm gonna ask for more discussion, I'm gonna ask for 2 motions. The first one is approve the 2017 preliminary levy to comply with the state of Minnesota's truth and taxation laws. I need a motion.
I'll move on that, Mr.
I have a
Chair.
motion from Commissioner Jelinski, I need a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion on that one?
Mr. Chair, and I think initially, when we looked at this and began our discussions, we were up around 8% initially, right? And we cut that down to 3.2, and we can still decrease it before the final comes. We cannot raise it, so we can still take away from that 3.2 yet.
And that time is when we have to
End of
get the
December?
final, is
In
end of
December.
End of December, it's
We'll
not,
probably do it sometime, like, December 20th, somewhere in there, we'll probably set that final levy somewhere in that. And, you know, we'll be scheduling some more meetings to discuss this. This is not, this is just preliminary, we still got more to go and more discussion to have and different things like that, so.
Thank
any
you.
more discussion, gentlemen? This is gonna be a roll call vote. Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Mauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carried. Now I need another motion to approve the 2017 budget for Morrison County to comply with the state of Minnesota's truth and taxation law. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
I got a motion, I need a second.
Second.
I have a second for more discussion. Again, this will be a roll call vote. Again, I'll ask, is there any more discussion? If not,
One of the things in this budget that's a little bit different, you know, than we've had in other years, why it's an 8% is a little bit higher. For one, you know, I think in the road and bridge fund, there's some projects, as you can see, it went from 10.4 to 12.1. There's some extra projects going on, some extra federal money, as you remember, as Steve had it present his budget. One of the other things that we have going on in this budget is community corrections is now fully under Morrison County.
Absolutely.
correct.
And as such, we only had a
good
budget
point.
of $195,000 before. Now it's almost $1 million budget, and that's also, and that's in the general fund.
Good budget, good catch.
So that is one of the things that's driving this increase probably more, is an extra $1 million just in the corrections alone being fully funded under Morrison County. So that's why that percentage is a little bit off. The levy didn't change. Actually, the levy, I think, will probably decrease slightly, but the budget is there, and that's why this is such a higher number than normal, I
Good
guess.
point,
So,
good point. Any more discussion, gentlemen? Again, this will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Mauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Motion carried.
and then one thing I didn't have on, because I had it on my agenda, but I totally forgot about it at the last meeting, because we were kind of rushing through things a little bit, but is to set the truth and taxation hearing. And I can bring it in as a board action at the next one, or we can, you know, at
Let's
least get
do
a
it
date
right
now,
Might
or,
as well get the date right now. Gotta
I mean,
find
it's
my
up to
book.
you. Like I said, I figured I have you all
Are you guys
together
okay
here, we
with
might
that?
as well
With
try
that?
to get
Yeah,
the date
sure.
set.
What
I
is-
had Thursday, December 8th as a date. It's a 7 o'clock, it's an evening
day
meeting.
again, please?
Thursday, December 8th is because the week before is AMC. or that-
AMC is
Earlier in the
fifth-
week is
Fifth,
AMC.
sixth, and seventh, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
You said
That would be-
Thursday, December 8th?
yep,
That would
7
be 7
PM in
o'clock.
the county boardroom
At
here.
7 o'clock, would that be here?
Yep,
And we have a board meeting that night, am I right?
That morning.
that morning.
Oh, that morning,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
If you don't want it that
Sure.
day,
No,
you can
that's
pick a
fine.
different day. It doesn't matter. It just has to be after November
7
30th.
o'clock.
Truth and taxation at 7?
Boy, that'll be here before you know it too.
Oh, yeah, things are moving by. way too
God,
fast.
this month and year, where'd it go? All right.
That's the one that we have to stay here for 1 hour, no
No.
matter what? Is that?
No, no, no.
No, we just go there and go through the budget.
Oh, okay.
There's a,
Right.
you know,
It's
well,
a-
if there's
okay,
people there, they have a chance to speak, and if not, we
Okay.
move along fairly quickly with the
I'm
meeting.
talking about Board of
Board of
Equalization.
Equalization, done in
Thank you. That's fine.
So this is okay to do it here? I can bring it in separately. I just needed a
that's
date
fine.
and time, I guess,
All
so.
right. Yeah, we'll make a motion
So
on this one
moved.
too. We got a
Second.
motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. So that was Kevin, you made the motion
I
and
did.
and Dwayne made the second,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Okay, there we go. Okay,
All right.
that's it, Steve?
That is all I have. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Who's
Thank you
doing the
very much.
warrants?
Are you doing the, who's doing the
You do the
warrants?
warrants?
I can do that.
Sure.
I would so move on the warrants, everything.
Yeah, we're gonna do the warrants, yes, Steve.
Forgot about
Okay, that's to pay all the bills, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, I have a motion and a second. This is gonna be a roll call also. Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Mauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
myself, aye. Motion carried.
There's a motion in the second.
Motion and a second for the warrants was
I made the motion.
motion, and who made the second?
Mike made the
Mike
I think
made the
Mike
second.
did.
Missed that too.
Yeah.
You guys are so quick.
Mike is so soft-spoken.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know he did.
But that's fine. He does a heck of a
Still
job.
shaking his head.
Unbelievable.
We're good to go, Steve.
All right.
Thank you.
Was there anything
Thank
else
you.
on the agenda of the auditor?
I guess we need to talk to another Steve. Moving right along.
We still got to him in the morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Steve, how are you?
Very good.
Good.
Public Works.
First item for your consideration that we had included in your packet was an authorization to purchase a used tandem truck. We cover 1,460 lane miles of road every time that we plow snow. We have 20 routes that we utilize or in conducting that work. And the workhorse for doing that is our tandem trucks. And so when we have 20 routes, we have 20 of them, and as you review our budgets, you see that we typically are replacing one a year, and then other years we'll do two to try to keep those within a 10 to 15. The goal, I think, is to keep it around the 15-year rotation on transferring those trucks out. A new truck costs us about $230,000 when it's fully rigged. And from time to time, a good opportunity comes along where there is a used truck that has low mileage. And what's happened here is we have a metro county, a fairly area of a well-to-do area, let's say, that is on a 10-year rotation with their fleet. And they are moving that truck out, and it was presented to us for consideration on whether we would be interested in acquiring it to replace out one of our units that are 19 years old. It's less than 40,000 miles on the unit, and the cost of that will be around $80,000. We would utilize funds within our existing budget. Fund balance, probably. We may be growing in fund balance because of the fact that we had low bid prices on construction work this year. Fuel prices down, salt prices are down, so items that we had originally had estimated to be higher are coming in lower throughout the year. So I don't think it's gonna have a very big impact on the overall road and bridge budget for this year. But provides us an opportunity to bring on a decent truck, move out an old unit, and I think in the long run is better for everyone.
And so our request is that you'd authorize us to do this
I would so move,
transaction.
Mr.
I have a
Chair.
motion from Commissioner Johnson.
second.
I have a second from Commissioner Mauer. This will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Wilson.
Mr. Chair, do we have discussion?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, all right.
Steve, I would like to thank you for having your eyes open for these opportunities, because buying a truck for $80,000 with 40,000 miles on versus 230, that's a great thing to do.
Third of the money.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, over the last, since the economic downturn, I guess we probably have bought 5 units. And you know, a lot of counties are like us, when they move them out, they're in pretty tough shape, but sometimes there's some pretty good ones that come through. And I think we have a good fleet, and it provides us the opportunity to do a better job in our work when we are able to keep our equipment up like this.
This is good business.
Thank you.
Well,
Any more
Mr. Chair,
discussion?
it has all the stuff, the apparatuses on it that we need pretty much, as far as the sprayer and, I mean, all the stuff that you usually look for in a vehicle. So that's a
Exactly.
bonus, and they're gonna paint it and that, you know, everything.
It's spec just how we would spec a new piece of equipment for ourselves.
Big savings.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? If not, again, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Mauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carried.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, also included in your packet and is a project completion resolution. We had the opportunity to review the accelerated construction project on County Road 213, running from County State Aid Highway 13 to Trunk Highway 115, along the west side of the river up to Camp Ripley. The project was constructed by Anderson Brothers. The work is complete. I'd like to request that the board would approve the certification so we can move to finaling that job and try to get our accelerated dollars back in as fast as we can.
I would so move on that,
I would
Mr. Chair.
second that.
I got a motion from Commissioner Johnson, second and Commissioner Mauer for more discussion.
Steve, on here, it's C-265, that's not a road number,
That's a contract number
Okay,
for us,
okay.
yes.
All right, I got a motion and a second to certify the project that was mentioned by Steve. I got a roll call vote again here. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Mauer.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Thanks,
that's all I
Steve.
have.
Appreciate
you.
it.
Steve, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, are you gonna be around after a while?
You want me to wait?
Whatever works for you.
I can wait.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Administration,
I have one item for consideration, and that's to approve the proposed land services structure as presented. We've talked about this a number of times. We have a upcoming retirement of our county assessor position. And as we have taken, as an approach for the last number of years, when there is a vacancy, this is something that can present at times an opportunity also to see if there's a way to do business more efficiently and less costly, as what I think is demanded of us by our taxpayers. And so in taking a look at this, I did some work with existing staff and did some look around to our neighbors to see if there is opportunities. One thing that I was well aware of is that we have an excellent skill set in our current staff, and our existing staff. We have staff that's trained, that meets the statutory technical component of what the assessor position does in terms of certifications and experience. We have proven management, I think, that does a very good job in looking to set a vision and expectations for the staff that we have. And so what I'm asking is that we allow that to play out and allow the staff that will be here and continue to be here the opportunity to work through business and see if we can't come up with a longer term solution to do business in a way that really meets customer needs. And really helps to unite that one Morrison County delivery of service and land services, and as it relates to those geographically parcel-based type of functions. And so what this consideration is to approve a land services director job description and rating as it fits into our system, and then to approve a lead senior appraiser position and the job description and grade as it fits into our system.
gentlemen, for more discussion, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Commissioner Mauer, And I need a second, please. Seconded from Commissioner Wilson to approve the proposed land service structure as presented and the changes to the land service director position effective December 10th, 2016.
Yep, and the only reason that that date is there is it starts the 2017 budget year, the payroll period.
And the lead senior appraiser position effective October 31st.
Yep, and that I would like more overlap to allow for that appointment to be able to learn from existing staff from Glenn prior to his retirement at the end of December.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, from the first day I came to the county board, I have looked at and been concerned with, actually for much longer than that, with putting departments together that have the same services or that same service area, and to avoid paying or pay as few directors as we need to. I think, having a department of 12 or 15 people is not a big department compared to what we have in the county. In fact, many years ago, before Deb's time as the treasurer, I ran for county treasurer in the off year between county commissioners, and I lost. But my campaign promise in that was, the only reason I was doing that in an off year from county commissioner was to combine the auditor and treasurer, because I felt we had two positions that were high paid positions that had very few employees under them, and I felt that one person could do that. So I think county government and bringing that down to size is a part of our responsibility to our constituents. So I'm very supportive of this, have pushed for this since I came here on the county board, so that being said.
Any more discussion? Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, I think Deb put it very eloquently on how she explained everything with this process. That when we lose someone, wherever that person is from within the government, that is there a better way of doing business? Whether this is a better way or not, I don't know. Certainly open to try, but you know what? If it's not, after a year, we can probably renegotiate this whole system again and go back to the way it was if it doesn't work. So I think it's a win-win all the way around. So very much thank you on how you put that together.
Any more discussion?
We've talked about this for quite some time, so.
Yeah, and this was, and again, we really did have a nice conversation about this over the past months, as they say, so it's just not something that we're looking at right at this time, so I'm all for it too.
And
so.
I agree with all the comments that you've all made. We've been talking about this, and this is just a good way of doing business. It's a chance to save some money, and if it don't work, we can always go back, so.
Exactly. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right. Thank you very much. We will work towards accomplishing the desired
Anything else,
goals.
Deb?
I don't have any other action items. If there's anything from the board
Anything
for
from the
me.
board, otherwise we'll go to committee reports. All right, how about, let's start out with Commissioner Wilson.
No problem. Okay, we're going on.
What is it, the third through
October
the?
3rd through the 15th.
Yes.
On Monday, what's it called, Jeff?
Confronting opiate abuse.
Opiate abuse at the Falls Ballroom. Tuesday's the planning session at 8:30, and at night, the Board of Adjustments. On the 7th, at 8:30, TSWAC, the landfill. At 12 o'clock, Fort Ripley has the Veterans Trail out there, a meeting at the Fort Ripley Steakhouse. The 11th, a board meeting at 9 o'clock. The 12th, department head meeting room 1, and we've got a health board meeting in Staples. Dwayne and I do, and that's it for that week.
Commissioner Mauer.
I will also be over at the Falls Ballroom on that opiate, and I'm actually on two panels, the one on government officials, and I'm also on the panel on chemical dependency as a counselor. So I'm on both of those panels, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Let's see here, then Public Health Advisory on Wednesday the 5th at 5 o'clock in Public Health. 10 o'clock Thursday the 6th at Council of Aging in St. Cloud. I will also be at the Fort Ripley. It's actually a lunch and then at 12 and then a trail ride following that. Let's see here, then I have Veterans State Trail meeting at the fort at 5:30 on the 13th. I'm thinking that's still on, but I'm not sure, in lieu of that other one possibly, I don't know. They haven't said one way or the other, so, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Jalinski.
The
third through the- what day was it again?
No, I got it all.
Oh, okay,
The 5th, Wednesday the 5th, I've got a 11 o'clock Armor Executive Committee meeting in St. Cloud. On the 6th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got a legislative conference call dealing with Armor. T-SWAC, Fort Ripley, just for anybody's information.
It's your birthday.
No. On the 12th,
Then
at
it's
10, no, I did that last week. On the 12th, at 10:30, Representative Kresha and his opponent Simmons, I believe, are gonna be at City Hall, just for anybody's
That's
information.
this meet the candidates thing or something
Yep,
like
I
that?
believe that's on the 12th. On the 13th, besides trails, at 9:30 in the morning, there should be an ACUB meeting at Camp Ripley. And on the 14th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, there's an Armor RAC meeting in Polk County.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right,
Thank you
Commissioner
very
Johnson.
much.
On Thursday, October 6th, I've got a South Country Health Alliance meeting in Owatonna at 9 a.m. And the 10th, on Monday, 5 Yellow Ribbon meeting at Herbie's Bar in Sobieski.
Beautiful.
At 5:30. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. And you got all mine, so it looks like we're good to go.
What?
And you know, Mr. Chair, I just have to say, some meetings just happen to have a lot because things stack up. So we apologize and we try to arrange things so they're not all in one meeting, but timing of
Life.
things happen
Things happen.
I think we
sometimes.
did very well.
That's how the game is played.
All right.
Yeah.
I was
Any
so
more
moved for adjournment,
I
my
got a
friend.
motion from Commissioner Johnson, I need a second.
You done?
Going once for a second.
I'll second.
I'm like, we're stuck here.
All right, Commissioner Mauer seconded, any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Motion, we're adjourned at what time you got? 12, what is it?
12:10.
12:10.
I've been going by that.